taking a shot downfield, wide open end zone, caught, touchdown. It's Malachi Coleman.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
A lot of grass to Klubnik's left. Here he goes, wide side. Klubnik trying to break away. He cannot. It's Corey Flag, and Miami wins.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
It is good! The Utah Utes sink USC once more in another classic.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Houston. Smith from the shotgun. Has the snap. Rolls to the right. Looks. Throws on the run. It is incomplete. Broken up by Jahdae Barron. It was intended for Stephon Johnson, the hero of the Hail Mary. And Jahdae Barron comes up hero for Texas.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Spawn from the one, whose coverage has been strong so far tonight, but he breaks free. Deuce Spawn in a foot race. They'll never catch him. And the Dollar special teams strike back quickly.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
May just barely got it away, and the ball is caught. Intercepted James Jackson for Virginia at the 42.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It is almost impossible to try to wrap up every college football weekend, but we will try to do that at the Big 12 level and also including the top 25, which includes part of the Big 12 level. Good afternoon, and it's also a dramatic Game 7 tonight in baseball down in Houston, the Rangers and the Astros in the Battle of Texas in the American League. We will have a lot to get to. We will try to get to all of it if we possibly can. We also will hear from Baylor's Dave Aranda, Chuck Cooperstein, who's as good as it gets when it comes to being a sports broadcaster, Matt Brown, JJ Joe, Phil Bennett, Paul's Top 5, and so much more. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Jack McKenzie today, also right here in the studio. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. Let's go straight to the Big 12 standings. Here's where we are at the end of the weekend with Oklahoma on top. That sure wasn't easy at home against UCF. Texas right there in a tie with Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State. They've all kind of like where they are at 3-1. That sure wasn't easy in Houston either. Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon, Kansas State, 400 yards rushing. Iowa State had the off week, and then, of course, the rest of the Big 12 conference.
Yeah, Oklahoma got a scare. Everybody at the top except for Michigan has had one, though. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk at length about Michigan in a second for other reasons. But Oklahoma fought through. But I think if you really look at teams at the top, and Texas had their scare and fought through. So if they wind up being the Big 12 champion later on, they'll show they can do it. Ohio State's had a couple of tight games. Florida State's had some tight games. Washington had a tight game. Oregon's had tight games. Georgia's had tight games. So
we're going to get to the top 25 in a moment, yes.
But teams are winning tight games. Oklahoma showed that they can do that here, not have their best game, and ward off somebody who was extremely motivated to do that. So, yeah, my opinion didn't change much about Oklahoma, although I am a little worried about their running game.
Yeah, a lot of interesting results this past weekend. I think the thing that jumps out to me talking about the Big 12 was just how close the new schools were to having a monumental weekend and knocking off the two Blue Bloods and ruining their national championship hopes in Texas's case. And dinging Oklahoma's playoff hopes in their case, but instead those two remain as is and pack on another win. But I just think a massive missed opportunity for UCF and Houston, and one that's going to really linger with them. Not that they won't, still turn around this week and play well and regroup and be fine. But I just think that that's one that you'll always look back on and be like, man, if we could have had that win, particularly Houston. I just think that with the setting and everything that was going on there, being a home game that they'll never probably have again of that type, that was, man, so close. And, man, what a win for, Texas and Oklahoma to, like Paul said, get those close games behind them, and I'm sure there will be more like that moving forward, although those number of games are dwindling down now at this point. I mean, we're nearly in the final month. We'll be in the final month after the end of this week.
Absolutely.
Which kind of sucks. I mean, that it's going by this fast, but, I mean, those weren't just the other two stories. I know throughout the week we'll get into more of these games individually because they're all different stories themselves, but Oklahoma State remains very impressive, and Ollie Gordon is just a fun player to watch running the football. Just a big dude, hard to bring down, lots of burst, and just a tough guy to wrangle at the moment for Big 12 defenses. And he's got the Cowboys, right there in that second tier behind the Sooners and Longhorns as far as teams that could be competing to try and, make a little noise and do something here down the stretch. Obviously, K-State with a massive statement. What an awful loss for TCU. That Sonny Dykes said, he was completely blindsided by and wasn't expecting, but geez Louise, they got torn to shreds by the Wildcats, who managed their two-quarterback system really well. West Virginia starting to flounder, so yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on.
Absolutely, there is 343 yards rushing by Kansas State in their win against TCU. Gordon has now had over 500 in the last couple of weeks. BYU up at home in Provo, 5 turnovers for Texas Tech. They dropped to 3-5, and just a couple of weeks ago after they won at Baylor, you thought maybe they had turned the corner. They haven't. And then Baylor passing the ball to set up the run game. Like, who would have ever thought that? And it wasn't easy for them either in the win against Cincinnati on the road, but they had a great, great day when it comes to special teams. All right, this Saturday in Lawrence, Kansas, guess who will be there? Oklahoma and Kansas. It's also the Fox Big Noon Kickoff. How about that? In Lawrence, Kansas, Fox Big Noon Kickoff in a game that I think is going to be very high scoring and maybe a 35-30 type of game before it's said and done.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels going to play?
Nope.
Then, I mean, it's just, God, it sucks that he's hurt. Because he is, in my opinion, the most fun quarterback to watch in the Big 12 when he's healthy. But he's not going to play. Jason Bean's filled in admirably, but that's good news for Oklahoma because they're already going into a place that all of a sudden is confident that they might be able to beat you. Whereas for years, if you had just told any of their fans, like, hey, you got a shot to beat Oklahoma, they'd be like, I have a number of a guy you can call if you're having problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's always possible, I guess, that, these injury reports don't really mean anything. There's, it's not like you put them on there and they can't get off there. So these updates early in the week don't necessarily mean that he won't make some surprise appearance because we've seen that before. But just based on today, the word out there from Lance Leipold is that he's optimistic, but that Jalen Daniels is doubtful to return. So, again, you could, see the progress that's being made. He's doing more in practice, as that says there, but not likely he'll play. Again, there's always a surprise factor. But, yeah, overall it is certainly dampened the spirit of just the excitement level around Kansas football, I think, to at least some extent, because it's not quite what it could be with that difference maker at quarterback. All due respect to Jason Bean, he can win you games, but he's not Jalen Daniels, who helped bring the program back from the ashes and made them competitive and interesting last year. So yeah, that stinks, but a good opportunity for Lawrence, Kansas to host an event like that, and maybe there's a little magic in the air. We'll see.
All right, and then on top of a quarterback news, the news on Saturday that Quinn Ewers suffered a grade 2 AC joint in his right shoulder, expected to miss some time. Malik Murphy came in, and they also used Red a lot in the Wildcat to pick up the big third or fourth down and short type runs as well. Not season ending, but this is also Quinn Ewers, who remember last year early when he was knocked out in the game against Alabama. So at least that puts a little bit of a quirk, although Malik Murphy, incredibly talented, not the accurate thrower that Ewers is. And yet he now is under the fire of being the starting quarterback in Austin.
He's also never played, really.
That's true.
So, that's, to me, the Malik Murphy's a superb athlete. Like, he wasn't, the number 2 or 3 quarterback recruit in the country or whatever he was, because he won a spelling bee. I mean, he's really good, talented athletically, but he has not played. He spent most of the year last year injured. Through the spring, really was injured as well. So you haven't really seen that much of Malik Murphy at all. And so my question for Texas would be, say Quinn Ewers is out next week against Kansas State, which most of the time with shoulders and AC joints is at least 2 or 3 weeks. So they've got BYU this week, a team that's going to play really tough, kind of violent attitude that they have. And then they've got Kansas State, who's a good team, a pretty darn good team that is going to play physical and come after you. And I would say take some chances on a young quarterback. How mature can Malik Murphy get to play within himself right now? Because they're going to lose some things that they do with Quinn Ewers that he's not going to do because he's not ready to do that. So I think they'll probably be fine because of what they have around him. But in those close games, does he have the moxie yet to quiet the noise and do what's got to be done?
Yeah, Quinn Ewers is a really good player, so that's a tough loss. I mean, that's your guy. That was your guy. And he's now out for, like you said, the unknown amount of time moving forward, but it sounds like it'll be at least a game, if not a couple of games. And, yeah, that puts them in quite the pickle. I don't put them necessarily right on upset watch at home against BYU this week, but I think you have to put the meter up a little bit. I wouldn't put it off in the red necessarily like I might against Kansas State, depending on what we see this weekend. But, I mean, you got to be aware that it's certainly a possibility. I don't know if BYU can ultimately score enough and do things like that in the end, but they can if they pick off Malik Murphy a couple times. They can if they get some turnovers. And so, yeah, it's going to boil down to how well he plays, and what a great opportunity for a guy who's been waiting his turn, and now will have his turn. And again, haven't seen a lot, but this is the moment you've been waiting for, so go out there and show it. And we might be walking away, come this time next week going, dang, Malik Murphy needs to play.
Yep.
For all we know, he could be the second coming. We just haven't seen enough yet. But to see him actually go out there and have to engineer drives and start a game off and do all the little things that aren't just, backup time here and there will be, really enlightening. And, of course, there's the underlying storyline of Arch Manning as well, and the fact that he'll now be QB2 while Quinn Ewers is hurt. So he's right there in the thick of things to potentially play and make his college debut. So that'll be a very interesting situation to watch. And, this is a situation now, too, where Texas, can't afford a second loss. I mean, they can in terms of the Big 12 for the moment, but as far as playoff hopes go, that is a major part of this Ewers injury. Is okay, can they, get the job done while he's out and, keep them above water? So if he does return there at the end of the year, they're still in the same position as when he left.
All right. So, yeah, Malik Murphy's thrown 8 passes. Ewers throws 213 plus, played most of last year too, but an incredibly gifted young man. We'll see what happens. Also, one note, I mentioned this on the Baylor passing to set up the run as they escaped in Cincinnati. A couple of little nuggets that I had is that, they put Colton Price at center and moved Barrington to right guard, where he was an All-American at BYU. And Dave Aranda discussed that today during his media session. Also, I asked him about it, but brought what maybe we had not seen, which is an edge and anger and kind of playing pissed off. Now, is it contagious enough to win this week? I don't know, but at least that is something that they did make that move during the off week last week.
Well, the offensive line moves worked. I mean, Blake Shapen, if I'm not wrong, didn't get sacked. Did
One
he?
sack.
One sack.
One sack in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so he didn't get sacked
and I think that was as much on him as anything.
For the majority of the game. And so, I mean, they were trying to get the ball out quicker. But I did think from the very beginning of the year that they had a lot of guys playing in the wrong spots. Like from the Texas State game on, I was like, well, Gavin Byers was a tackle last year. Now he's the left guard. Both the Barrington brothers were guards. One of them is playing tackle. One of them is playing center. Like, I don't know if you even needed to, reshuffle the entire deck, and bring in 5 new starters, or just play guys where they're most comfortable. And I think maybe they were a little bit guilty along the offensive line of overthinking that. At least for 1 week, it looks like it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, well, there's 2 Barrington brothers, so Clark is who you're talking about that moved from center. And, they needed to do something to shuffle things up because what they were doing wasn't working very clearly. Now, it looked better. They kept shaping cleaner, and that was impressive given the opponent. Cincinnati is very good up front, but still couldn't run the ball worth a dang until later on in the game. Now, a lot of that wasn't even attempting to run. They were just throwing and throwing and throwing. But, we'll see. I mean, it worked for 1 week, and now that you kind of have a little bit of a sample size, is that something that carries over and you're able to do more off that? Potentially. So, yeah, I mean, take the positives where you can get them, and that was a positive, but, you still rushed for 80 yards total in that game, and you got to win, granted, but that's an area where you still just have to be so much better, and, they were able to get away with that this past weekend by focusing on the pass.
All right, Big 12 Players of the Week, and then we're going to get to the national picture. Ollie Gordon, we mentioned him. Ollie Gordon the second, back-to-back now. He was the Offensive Player of the Week. BYU's Eddie Heckard, Defensive Player of the Week in that 5-turnover game against Tech. Nick Anderson of Oklahoma, the Newcomer of the Week. And Isaiah Hankins, who kicked 4 field goals. The shortest, I think, was 43 yards and hit a 54-yarder. Won the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. Now, here's the top 25. Not a lot of movement. Ohio State is 3. There's Florida State, Ohio State with the big win. There's Texas and Oklahoma right there next to each other. Alabama sneaks into the top 10. Penn State falls a little bit. Nobody fell more than North Carolina after Virginia's first top 10 road win in football program history this past weekend. And then you see Air Force is kind of cute right there. I love it in the top 20. Because I love the way they play football, old school, that wishbone offense.
Yeah, and Virginia is not a new football program either. Like, that shows you how long, like, they've been around a while. So that's a huge one. And, North Carolina not only put themselves behind the 8 ball a little bit in the ACC race. I mean, I think even if they win out, they're out of the CFP because you're just looking for excuses of the committee to keep somebody out of the top 4, right? When you say, like, okay, who's your loss to? Oh, a team that won one other game.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a bad loss. Great job by Virginia in winning their first road game against the top 10 opponent in history, the football history.
I don't know how much stock I was buying in North Carolina playoff hopes, but, those are dashed now. I mean, they'd have to have a lot of carnage happen around them to get over the loss to Virginia. That was a major victory for the Cavs. Good for them. I know it's been rough going the last couple of years, and they haven't had a lot of bright spots to grab onto. So this was certainly one of those, and I'm sure there was a big-time celebration on the way back home from Chapel Hill. So good on them. And, it does make the ACC interesting, or the ACC race a bit more interesting. I will say, though, on the Air Force thing, this is not a knock on you, but the way that you said that, like, oh, look how cute they are, that's kind of the knock right on the blue blood teams of, like, oh, look, they're in the top 25.
That's not what I meant, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and so it's like, no, I mean, they're real deal Air Force, and, they're not some cute little toy that if you try to pet them, they're going to bite you now. So good for them to take care of their business as well. And, that was a stunning win for Virginia over North Carolina.
All right, go ahead.
What I would say about Air Force, when people go like, oh, yeah, it's Air Force, like, okay.
Go play them.
Do you want to play them? Like, your team would probably, like, if you're in the top 10, you'll probably beat Air Force. Probably. But do you want to play them? No, I don't. I don't want to play Air Force.
It's no different than when Navy was really good. And no different than Army and what they took Oklahoma, remember, to the brink just, 2, 3, 4, maybe it was longer than that ago, although LSU just crushed them in Baton Rouge over the weekend. I want to get to a couple of things. Go back to the poll, if you wouldn't mind, Garrett. This is from Ralph Russo, who obviously puts up the poll he works for the AP. There has not been a team other than Georgia and Alabama ranked number 1 since the middle of the COVID year. There has not been a team outside of the Deep South ranked number 1 since Ohio State. What year do you think it was? Ranked number 1.
2014, when they won it?
Greg? 2015. That's the last time somebody out of the Deep South was ranked number 1 in the AP Top 25 poll. That's hard to imagine. Alabama ran it. LSU had their run in 19. Georgia's had theirs now for the last, what I think are 20-plus weeks as far as the poll. That, to me, is hard to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it is and then it isn't when you think about just how, the national championships have gone the last few years, and you think about Bama's run of dominance, and then Bama's run of dominance turns into Georgia's run of dominance. So there hasn't been a whole lot of opportunities to knock those teams from their perches and take over that number one spot, and the national championship games reflect that. And I guess Clemson, is that South Carolina deep south? I guess, it is considered that. But I don't know. That's an interesting note. But I look at the end of that poll and I see James Madison on there, which is very, very interesting to see JMU there, given that they're not going to probably be able to play in a bowl game here at the end of the year unless there's some exception because there's not enough teams or whatever. But good on them. And that should bolster their case for the transition that they've made. That's incredible for that school to find themselves in the top 25. Tulane, Duke, Air Force, JMU. Not a lot of parity there at the top, but certainly at the bottom, a lot of interesting schools that we don't see all that often, especially combined like that. So pretty cool to see that.
All right, here's another note in the top 25. Georgia, if they remain ranked number one in the next 3 weeks, they will have tied what is Miami's streak from 2001 to 2002. That would be 21 consecutive weeks. Southern Cal, USC has the record 33 consecutive weeks at number one. 03, 04, 05 until they ran into a guy in a team from Texas and Vince Young. All right, now, bangers. Top 25. There's only 2 games this week in the top 25 where both teams are ranked. Now, there's some really interesting games, but these are the 2. Both at 2:30 this Saturday. Oregon and Utah. My goodness, what a collision course this one is. Utah with a great win against USC, and we'll get into that. And then Duke 20 to Florida State, pretty deep. Louisville at 18. That game is on ESPN. 2 top 25, 2 teams, both ranked in the top 25 this week.
Yeah, I think it's kind of unfortunate for Duke because I don't think Riley Leonard will play in this game unless he played pretty solid for 3 quarters, but once he took that gigantic hit and got mauled, then he was out of the game. And I remember thinking at the beginning of the week, like why Florida State was getting 14.5 points over a really good Duke team. Well, Vegas thought that Riley Leonard wasn't going to play. And when Riley Leonard was in the game, it certainly wasn't a 14.5 point spread. And the minute he went out, it definitely was because Florida State won by 18. So he's that much of a difference maker for Duke. And I came away like, I am a Riley Leonard stan now. That dude is tough as nails. He was trying to get Mike Elko to put him back in the game after, he was clearly in a lot of pain. Mike Elko did the smart thing and said, look, we've got to think about the rest of the season because this is just one conference loss if it did wind up that way, which it did. But I'm a huge Riley Leonard fan now, and I hope he gets to play down the stretch, but I would not think he would play this week after that.
Yeah, I have no idea what his injury status is or what the updates are. Haven't looked since Saturday night, but he played his tail off. That was a valiant effort from Duke. I know they don't want a ribbon for participation or anything like that, but they deserve more than a pat on the back because they did give the Noles a stressful night and, had some moments there where you wondered if they weren't going to be able to pull off the upset, which would have been just incredible to be talking about today. But, FSU got the job done. It's unfortunate that Leonard's banged up, but, man, he showed the heart of a champion, if you will. As cliche as that can kind of be sometimes, he definitely showed that on Saturday night. So, not the sexiest lineup of games as far as rankings go with just the 2 that you showed there. But both of those ought to be, very interesting and obviously have some implications for their leagues and their own teams. So that'll be fun to see those 2. And as we know, the last time there was a weekend that wasn't really chock full of a lot of ranked games, it turned out to be one of the wildest weekends ever. So we experienced that earlier this year, and maybe that's what we're in store for this weekend. I hope so.
All right, now, Paul, I know we have Dave Aranda is going to join us about 3:40 or so today. And then Chuck Cooperstein. We need a break here.
Yeah, let's break and talk about Michigan.
We'll come back and talk about Michigan, the staffer who's been under all of this investigation about what he's been doing at opposing stadiums and some of that information coming out. And we need to discuss, is USC now a house of cards? Who are they moving forward? And the media in L.A., which happens to be the second largest media market in the country, they're not real thrilled about what happened after the loss to Utah. We'll get to that and more. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Home for a butcher shop that's full service and a bakery that's full service. A bakery that can do all what you need from kolaches and fresh baked bread. If you want cakes or cookie cakes, they do that too. And then the butcher shop. Beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. Seafood that includes lobster tail, seafood that includes Atlantic Ocean salmon, mahi-mahi. You want it, they have it. Fresh catfish fillets, there's what you want. And they also have them breaded if that's what you want too. Then on top of that, you have the pork and poultry, the chicken, and if you want sausage galore, whatever type of flavors you like. And the beef filled in the back of the butcher shop with hamburger meat to steaks. They even have the tomahawk ribeyes, the big bone that looked like they used back in the days when the Vikings fought each other. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, your tailgate location too. Charcoal, pellet fuel, cold beer and wine, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
During Jeep Adventure Days, save big on 2023 Jeep models like the Grand Cherokee Limited with values up to $5,500. Or 10% off MSRP on new Jeep Gladiators on all trim levels. Or 10% off MSRP on a new Jeep Compass at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, so there's still more to get to, and we appreciate your time. We'll try to summarize it a little bit later on. A little note from Dabo Sweeney on Cabe Klubnik, the quarterback who ran. Apparently, his own instinct took off on a zone read that he thought he might be able to score, and Dabo talks about that, and so did Klubnik. But this is from, there's 2 or 3 different accounts, Garrett, on USC and the media availability, from Shotgun Spratling. For the first time in the 14 years I've been covering USC, the school did not make any players available to speak with the media. Inside Troy, that's our good friend Ryan Abraham. We'll have somebody from that site on tomorrow. Said it's the first time in his 20-plus years that no players were made available to speak. They had a heartbreaking loss to Utah. Williams scored late in the game to give them the lead. Then Utah drives down the field. Bryson Barnes with a huge run that gets them in field position to kick the field goal. They do it. Now, is this Lincoln Riley protecting his players, or is this players did not want to talk to the media? And what kind of look is this?
It's a bad look. Look, you can't, trot them out there after a win and not have them go out there after a tough loss. I mean, it's also a life lesson. Like, sometimes you have to go out and face it when you've had a tough one. And Lincoln Riley should know this. And, the way he's trying to guard, USC like they're a corporate company covering up a friggin' oil spill is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand what you gain by this. It's only going to make it worse. And, the three of us have had to sit in locker rooms many times or in post-game and talk to players after they lose games. They have to do that. Look, with your team full of NFL players, they all have to do that when they get there in a very short amount of time. Caleb Williams next year is going to have to do that every time. And if he walks away, he's going to get fined. So the lesson you're teaching them is it's fine to run away sometimes. You and I, Smokey, sat in a locker room in Oklahoma City waiting for Brittany Griner to come out and talk after they lost in the postseason. And, yeah, I know it's tough. It sucks. Nobody likes to lose. We don't. Like, even if you're a completely impartial journalist, it's really one of the harder parts of your job to go in and talk to somebody when they're upset about a big loss. So, yeah, it sucks for everyone, but we all have to get through it.
Well, and Brittany eventually did come out, and she did interview, get interview with the media. Craig, Caleb Williams, obviously defending Heisman Trophy. Isn't there also a role that he plays of representing that trophy? This doesn't mean it was Caleb Williams saying, hey, I don't want to talk. Maybe it was. He was emotional. I don't know. Your thoughts about USC. And we've seen now Riley dismiss, at least for a week, a member of the media. And in this case now, not allowing players to be available.
Well, I mean, my first thought is I understand why we're talking about this, and I do have thoughts on it, but I think the big story out of that game was Utah winning.
We were going to get to that. We will get to that.
I want to make sure that that's the big point made is that what an incredible job by Kyle Whittingham and Bryson Barnes, who we saw not be very good and ended up being very good in that game. But Lincoln Riley's soft. Lincoln Riley teams are soft. I think it's evident watching Oklahoma this year. And, yeah, it wasn't great last year as they made that transition, but, I mean, what a night and day version of the Sooners you see compared to his teams. And his teams had lots of success. But I think if they were anything in the long run that prevented them from being more of what they could have been, it was that they were a bit soft in comparison to those they eventually ran up against. I think Lincoln Riley's a great football mind. I think he's a good head coach. I do think he's out, though, a little bit over his skis. I don't know what's happened the last few years with him, but just his personality's kind of rubbed people the wrong way, and just some of his actions are very questionable and just not quite the guy in some ways that I remember first really liking when he was, crowned Oklahoma's new head coach. And I think it's a soft look. I think it's kind of become commonplace with that program now. I think it's, a matter of losing, bringing out the true colors in people. And I don't know who made the decision, if it was Caleb Williams or Lincoln Riley or whoever on, who would go out there or they didn't have to go out there. Again, that, like y'all said, that's something that the NFL will force Caleb Williams to have to do. But again, I'm not going to really try to put a target on him or put any blame on him, because in that moment, if the coach came in and said, like, hey, you guys don't have to speak to the media, or you don't speak to the media, then they're just following orders. But I just think overall it's a soft look by USC. I think that they'd be more than happy to go out there had they won that game. And the fact that they lost and all of a sudden they want to pout is indicative of just sort of where they are. And, yeah, that was a tough loss. But you know what? They're lucky they had a chance at the end of the game to even make that interesting, because the way they played, they really didn't deserve a chance at the end of that game so much. So, yeah, that's a bad look, and I'm sure it'll be brushed off on his end, and it's the media's fault or something along those lines. But I just think that was important. That was a poor choice in the heat of a tough loss.
All right, so here's Kyle Whittingham. Josh Furlong on the tweet. Kyle Whittingham with an all-time quote in the postgame. They've got a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, so they're going to make some things. And that's just the way it is. But we've got ourselves a pig farmer at quarterback, so we're proud of that guy too. What a great quote, and what a run by Barnes, who also threw the pick six that kind of put USC back in a mode to be able to win, or at least have a chance to win that game.
I'm very impressed with Bryson Barnes, considering that just over a month and a half ago, I was sitting next to Craig at the Baylor-Utah game, and I turned to Craig and goes, "This guy sucks." That's what I said. Quote, like, I'm not going to back off of what I said. He was playing awful against Baylor. And Utah didn't really even make me think they were going to win that game until they put Johnson in, the other quarterback.
Or until Baylor never separated.
Yeah, but, like, I just never thought, like, I was like, man, Utah, this guy's playing himself right out of the lineup here. And, they're sitting there, trying to pray to the football guys to heal Cam Rising right now to get him in shoulder pads and get him in this game because that was bad offensively. But, man, he's come a long way in a few weeks. But it also speaks to USC's defense that there is not a single lead they have that is safe. Not one. And especially if it's against a Utah team that has your number anyway late in the game. Like, I knew when Utah got the ball back, I was like, well, Utah's going to at least get in field goal range, and then USC's best hope is that he misses the kick.
Yeah.
Well, it was an incredible score, as quick as it happened by Caleb Williams. It just happened way too fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for them to answer and make it that interesting there at the end and take the lead was pretty exciting stuff. But you look at the clock and you're like, oh dang, there's like a whole minute and tons of change left in this game, and it just you didn't have faith in that defense because again they're soft, and that defense is soft, and defenses under Lincoln Riley have remained soft, and I'm not trying to pick on him, but I just think that was a bad look, and that was a tough loss. So I get that emotions were heated, but Caleb Williams still was able to make a little bit of magic. But yeah, I think when you watch that defense, or you watch when things are going sideways, they're not the most formidable team or scariest team in the world. They have some obvious flaws, and Utah was able to focus in on those and expose those, and also just grind it out. And that was Jaquindon Jackson having 100 rush yards. The guy never gets really much any attention outside of probably Salt Lake City because he doesn't have a bunch of touchdowns, but he's a consistent for them on the ground. Bryson Barnes coming from where he was when we saw him, as Paul pointed out, in Waco a few weeks back. He's made obvious strides with having more snaps under center. My gosh, Sione Vaki, the two-way star who deserves all of the praise for his performance. That's just, Utah football's a tough brand, man, and they're not one you want to take into a showdown if you don't have your guns ready and your muscles going and you're ready for a fight. And I don't know how much of a fight USC was ready for, but they still got the talent and explosiveness to make things interesting. And, in the end, though, Utah was just a tougher, better team, better coach team, and they're going to be a great addition to the Big 12 come next season.
I love the way they play the ball. And it's not because they're old school, because they can be new school, too, or the new age. Kyle Whittingham also saying that Rising, who has not played, is shut down. He is not. So no more week to week is he going to play or not. We have about a minute here before we take a break.
Well, and so is Brant Keithy. So their two best players, arguably, heading into this season, certainly on offense, are both not even playing a single down this year. And that's unfortunate, but you look at where they are despite that, and that just even more so screams of how excellent of a program and well-coached team they are under Kyle Whittingham. So, yeah, that's a blow, and yet here they are, still very much in the mix and beating USC regardless. But that sucks, and at the same time, I'm glad to know that, so we can all just move on and they can focus, and it's Barnes and Johnson if need be, and no more of this speculation week to week. But good luck to Cam Rising and getting healthy, especially with pro aspirations, I'd imagine.
All right, we're going to have a little bit later on a comment from Emmanuel Acho on Caleb Williams that we will discuss. A note about Alabama's defense in the second half of the last several games. Arkansas has a new offensive coordinator, and also Dabo Swinney appears to throw his quarterback under the bus. All of that and more. Baylor head coach Dave Aranda is next. Chuck Cooperstein, Matt Brown from Extra Points, and more. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco can help you with a couple of things that you need. If you're hurting, if your muscle or a ligament or something, a part of your body is shutting you down, and it just hurts, and you've had x-rays or you've been to the doctor and your orthopedic surgeon or doctor Family doctor, they may not know exactly what it is, and perhaps they've diagnosed it and it's still not working. Ideal MRI will find out what the evidence is of what is a muscle or a ligament or something is where it's not supposed to be or something's fine. Maybe even the MRI confirms everything's good, so then it's something else that your doctor and you have to deal with. So you'll get that Ideal MRI, state-of-the-art technology MRI machine, and then, of course, here's a banger too. $497 or less every single time. The average for an MRI is $1,100. Dr. Rob Maxey and staff have a great business in Waco off I-35 in the Central Texas Marketplace, idealmri.com.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgan Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgan Ford. Bird Colgan Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at UnitePrivateNetworks.com.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, David Smoak on 365 Sports. What is just the feeling of getting a win, coming off a bye week, and just kind of resetting whoever you might be?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think of our players first of all, you know, because it's coming off of losses. It's so down, and you bring them. Everyone involved tries so hard to bring them back up and back to life, and there's a hope and a vigor and everything kind of going into it. And you want them to have success, and so when you have success in that, it just adds to the trust and belief, and then, you know, I think it gives them some of the bye. You know, guys are going going back home and with their families, and I think for a lot of them, they want to just relax, hang out, and then the questions are always about the team, about football. There is no getting away, and so I think this adds some. This can kind of help with that, and so I think of that. I think of our coaches and their families, and I think of just all the work that the guys are going through, and for the last maybe month, everyone in this place was sick, and was getting their family sick, and just being sick and losing, and it was kind of it was all a thing, and so to get to the other side of that, and then we're really trying to have a run with this is exciting. So I think of those things, and then I think of that we got to make a run with this, and so we've got to be able to get, hey, this is the process, this is the mindset, this is the expectation, and kind of get all of that, and just the visualization of what this can be, we can end the season with a bunch of wins. We can end the season being so much more improved. We can be the team that we thought that we were from the very beginning, and so I think there's guys just within losing that lose the sight of that, and so much is bringing that back into focus.
You've met with players before, but during the broadcast there was the notion, or at least the thought, you had a conversation with several players, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thought is they don't want you to like the rah-rah stuff, which of course fans want to see more intensity. They wanted more, what? This is what we're supposed to do, X's and O's, play football?
Yeah, appreciate that. I think there are some young players that when the rah-rah stuff would go, I think would just kind of add to maybe an anxiety or just an uncertainty or just probably not a full confidence in their abilities. It would add to that. And I could see that. I was giving one of those talks prior to the Tech game, and we have freshman O-linemen, and it's in the locker room, and I'm saying these things, and I'm trying to get it kind of up, and I'm looking over him, and his face was just not it. I think I scared him. So I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that, but that's just not where our team is at this moment. And so to talk more about, hey, this is what we're asking you to do. Here's all the examples of you doing it, right? Here's going against the best that we have on this field, practice field, and here's you winning it, right? Here's everyone, stand up, look behind you. Here's everyone in this room has got your back. The coaches have got your back. And just, it's more of that. And it's like, let's take this to that stadium. Let's take this to this game time. And I think, when it's that way, I think there's much more of a freedom for guys to go out and kind of get out of their own way. And so I think that's been the path.
Because of who you are, when you put together a staff, do you purposely add people to the mix that are probably a little bit more temperamental or more outwardly personable, as far as the not rah-rah, but just maybe a little bit more energetic?
Yeah, I think you have to. I appreciate that question. You have to have a mix. I think it can't be. I think the levels of degree are important, though. Like I imagine there'll be some people on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a 1 or a 2, and so if that's the case, it's probably I can't have like a 9 or a 10. But so if it was a 6 or a 7, or maybe even a 5 or a 6 or a 7, then I think that'd be good. And I think I've found that out since being here. But that balance, I think, is important. And because what you're aiming for is balance. I think if you have a 1 and you have a 9, I don't know if that is balance. But if you can even it out a little bit more than that, it's helpful.
I asked you this a couple of weeks ago when things weren't good. But as far as the staff and them looking in the mirror themselves, and I asked you as a coach what you do, how have they handled the criticism or looking at the true serum? Because it is not an easy job, but again, they're paid well. So how have they handled that?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about that. I think that they're all way professional, and so they, their heads are down and everything. I think they enjoy being here in this building because I think we're all kind of going through the same thing, and there's not the questions and the interrogations on the outside of it, and so there's more of, hey, I'm here, I got people that believe in me and got my back, and I can just go to work. And so I think there's that. And so when you do if that's the setting of it, and you need to push your people to get better, and you need to be able to push them to not be comfortable and to not, to, that's the trick. And I think so much of that is seeing things. I think that, I think we all have blind spots, and I think we're all, I was talking to my son Ronan about some of his favorite movies, and there's a bunch of villains that he likes, and he's naming all the movies, and they're all just based upon just like the bad guys and stuff. And so it's like, but from his view, and I think he's right, is that the bad guys don't think they're bad. The villains, they all have a belief in what they're doing, and when they're convicted, what they're doing is right. And so I just think, there's blind spots, and so if you can help them, we're going back to our staff now. If you can help them with their seeing, and that the widen the perspective and zoom out and see, hey, I know we want to be able to get this accomplished, but right now we're really not good at it. Can we move the spotlight somewhere else and still work on this, but in critical moments do something else? Or, hey, I know we really want to be able to help this player develop. Let's help him develop, but can we take the load off of him and put it on, because I think when you aren't seeing things right, you can get caught up in identifying with the thing that's not right, and your self-worth's involved in it, and so then you dig in and you fight to the end, and it's not good for you, it's not good for the team, it's not good for that. And so I think the detachment helps with that, and so I try to be able to do that.
Colton Price starts at center. I get the impression it was time for him. Emotionally, he was ready to play, just based on the feedback I get, and it put Barrington back to where he was an All-American. That was done during the off week. Was that ever thought about doing prior to that?
Yes, it was. And I think, it's one of those things to where I think it ties in with what we just talked about. I think it's hard. I think just to see things clear, and when things are not going well, it's what to hold on to and save, what things to let go of. And, it can be, all of that can be kind of a scary thing. But I think that's where kind of, I think genius lies in that, though, man. I think that's where creativity is. I think that's where innovation is. I think that's where that space right there. And so, we talked about it about 2 weeks prior to this. And so, looking back, I wish we would have done it, but I'm glad that we did it now. And, Colton's got a bunch of nasty in him, and it's just a physical, tough. He didn't back down one bit. I mean, we had to pull him back some.
Can that be contagious?
Yes. Yeah, and Clark too. Clark is just a mean dude. And I just think, on Saturday, it was, Clark's had to have been everybody's dad, and he's got some of that in him, but he's more of the big brother that can go and settle a dispute, and so he can be that now.
How do you, with the wins and losses being attached to you, when things aren't good, how do you handle that yourself?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I always try to look at, what are the things we can do better? Why is this happening? I think of people that are affected by it. I think of where I can be to try to help. Are there things I'm not seeing right? Are there things that are, what's crazy is that, the universe would keep telling you something until you kind of stand up and listen to it. And, you have to, I think so much of it is that. And, I hear, see, you gotta get the right view of it. And, so I try to be there with our people so that we can all see it and hear it the same way, be on the same page. Second thing is the process. Like, what are we doing that's not working? Let's think through all of the things, and if something's not working, what can we do better? And then the mindset would be the third thing. And so, like, going into it, there can be, when you lose sometimes, there can be going through the motions. There can be, hey, I'm going to do all these things, but it ain't really going to mean anything because I know, we're not a good team, we're going to lose and all that. And so you really have to be intentional about that. There's like these silent forces where if you don't specifically address the person, the player, or the coach, and dig into what's happening in their life and what's they're feeling, these silent forces will overrun you, especially when losses pile up. And so, it could be playing time, it could be my future, it could be, noise, it could be production, lack of production. And so you have to, and it's not that those things are so strong, they overrun you. They overrun you because you don't engage with them. You don't spend the time to see them. You don't reach out and touch those things. And so, people, process, and mindset, I think, are way strong. So I do all that. And then, I don't know, I've never been, I think it's never been too attached to the wins and losses, and so I think it's, if I were to be tested on some type of scale, there'd probably be something that would show up, some type of spectrum number or something, I don't know. But I think one of the benefits of that is that these things don't ever really get to me too much.
One more thing. You brought up just there for the right. Monterey said that in a postgame a couple of weeks ago after Tech, that there were guys that were just there for the ride. One, he was one of those in the doghouse because he put himself there. How much did it help that he spoke out and that it shows that he's gotten it now? Yeah,
I think it's huge. Yeah, I think there's guys, you look at I think Gabe Hall is a guy that's playing really good football right now. I think T.J. Franklin on the sidelines of this past game, we did not play well defensively. And in the past, TJ would be one that would ride the wave of when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. And TJ's on the sideline just getting in guys' faces and challenging them, and this is not us. And it's just, and then there'd be another bust and another touchdown, and he gets back and he does the same thing. And so it's just strong growth right there, man. I think that's obviously we don't want to be in that situation where those points are given up, but in terms of just him and from where he's been to where he is now, I think it's way cool, and it's taken everybody, including him, to get to this point. And so I think he's one. I think Matt Jones is another one that just has just evolved, and I think it's hard because it's like you'd like to be able to control all of that and push a button and say, hey, this is going to happen today, and this is going to be understood today, and this is all going to connect and make sense today, but you don't control it. And so you can do your very best to influence it. And I think the best way to influence is to be an example of it, so that they can see you as someone that it can be trusted.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach on 365 Sports.
We will be back with Chuck Cooperstein, Matt Brown, J.J. Joe, Phil Bennett, and still more of the discussion we have on many things college football. We appreciate your time every day that you give us on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. It's located just off Highway 84 in Woodway, and Dr. Kent Petty and his staff can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and perhaps used to be. As you get older, you could be that one out of every 3 to 4 men who have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, from ED, a low sex drive, sleep habits, energy's not the same, you're lethargic, all of the above or something. Dr. Kent Petty, contact them on the website, pettycliniclowt.com. Tell them I sent you. He will then, and his staff, set you up to get your blood work. They will take care of that for you. You go get your blood work. He gets the results. They'll look it over. And if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to make you, better again in a lot of different ways. Things that perhaps are just not the same. pettycliniclowt.com, helping you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. pettycliniclowt.com.
The right call can make all the difference on and off the field. I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. When it's time for a new car, truck, or SUV, Bird Colgin Ford is the right call. Come check out our award-winning lineup of best-selling models in their class, like the Mustang, Explorer, Expedition, F-150, and Super Duty. Make the right call for your next vehicle at Bird Colgin Ford. Bird Colgin Ford proudly supports Baylor Athletics. Sic 'em Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone and ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He is the play-by-play radio broadcast voice of the Dallas Mavericks, involved in many things, sports and broadcasting. Also a Hall of Fame sportscaster Chuck Cooperstein joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. Yes, we want to get into college football, but my God, Chuck, we cannot go on too much further at all without the glorious Game 7 in Houston, and what an amazing series this has been.
I mean, really, if it's possible for the action to actually exceed the hype, it has happened in this series. And, even you think about the games in Arlington, like Game 3 in Arlington, where Houston, clearly, they were the better team and they deserved to win. But the Rangers were so close to being in that game and making Houston think about it, just as was the case in Game 2 in Houston, and obviously in Game 6. The final score last night was extremely misleading, given the fact they broke it open in the 9th inning. But we've got history. We got 2019 all over again, where Washington and Houston played in the World Series, and the home team did not win a game in that entire World Series. So certainly from the Rangers standpoint, they're hoping that history repeats itself tonight.
Chuck, to college football now, the biggest story is off the field right now, where Michigan is embroiled in a scandal of videotaping signals, and Big Ten schools are saying that they've got video of Connor Stalions entering the stadium, that they've proven that he's bought tickets to 11 of the 14 other teams. Your thoughts on how the NCAA should handle this and what they may actually be able to do, because they don't really work swiftly?
Well, that's a very good point. They don't work swiftly. And, if it took them 6 years to resolve the Kansas basketball matter in the manner that it did, and there was some incredible reporting on that, which basically said that Bill Self was going to give up coaching in the 2022 NCAA tournament as part of any penalty. And basically the NCAA said no after the IARP did what it was going to do. So there's no power here. They're feckless. They have no teeth. They can't do anything. I mean, Michigan can stretch this out as long as they want to, or certainly until Jim Harbaugh goes back into the NFL, if that's what he wants to do. I don't see anything happening here. I mean, if anything, it'll be the ultimate mild slap on the wrist and let's go on.
Chuck, we were just talking about the amazing USC-Utah game from the other night, and what a win for Kyle Whittingham and company, especially without some of their stars. But what did you make of just USC and the way that game unfolded, but also the big brouhaha post-game about not allowing or not having players speak to the media?
Well, college is supposed to be about learning and growing and handling yourself in an adult manner. And I don't think Lincoln Riley did himself or his players any good by handling that in the manner that he did. As far as the game goes, I mean, it was phenomenal. And Utah is just so tough. They play so hard all the time. Doesn't matter who's playing, not playing. I mean, they are the ultimate next man up team. And, the fact that they're 6-1 in the league, 6-1 overall, I mean, they got a great chance to win the Pac-12. In their final year there. I mean, are they the favorites in the Big 12 next year? They may very well be. Kyle Whittingham is just one of the great coaches in the game that very few people speak of, in that vein. He, in a lot of ways, isn't he like Bill Snyder at Kansas State? And Chris Kleiman at Kansas State now is a lot in that regard. Those are teams you don't want to play. Because you know what? They're never going to beat themselves. You have to go beat them. And USC found itself in a really tough situation there. Got behind, made a rally, got a great return from Zachariah Branch to set everything up. But in the end, the bugaboo of USC and Oklahoma before that with Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch, it's just not worked. And it doesn't matter how many different people they've brought into the program, the quality of the transfers. Listen, everybody wanted Bear Alexander, right, from Georgia, Texas kid. Bear Alexander made one of the worst plays in the game. It was a horrible play. I mean, and now he didn't even get to play in the first half next week because he got called for targeting. Now, I don't know. I would not have called that particular play targeting, but it was a stupid play, an unnecessary play, undisciplined play at the worst possible time. And then Brian Barnes did what he did. And did you have any doubt that the kid was going to kick the field goal for Utah? I didn't. And so they're kind of getting what they deserve. And now there's all this hullabaloo around Caleb Williams and should he shut it down because they're not going to win the national championship, this, that, and the other. It's just they're a mess. And sometimes I wonder if Lincoln Riley doesn't think that, that Norman, Oklahoma, that actually that's pretty good right now. That looks pretty good right about now.
So, Chuck, it's hard enough for me to swallow the missing bowl games. I've kind of now come to the grips that happens now with players who are going to probably be drafted. But shutting down, any thought about shutting him down because they can't win something, that's a taste I can't get out of my mouth.
I'm kind of there with you. You and I were brought up in an era of, your parents told you finish what you start, right? You go through the season, and the season is what the season is. And I understand there are business decisions to be made. And, if you're if you're a player like a running back or a linebacker, where in football your lifespan is a lot shorter than it can be at quarterback or receiver or something like that. If you're that player, I could almost see you shutting it down because you may just have X number of snaps. But it's certainly as the leader of the football team, to then cut out and basically, call your own number, that doesn't sit well with me. And I'm sure it doesn't sit well with many others.
Yeah, Chuck, I would bet on him not doing that until the bowl game. I mean, that's common practice now. It doesn't seem to me, I'm just maybe putting this on Caleb Williams because I maybe think highly of him, but I just don't think he's that dude that would do that.
I mean, he's kind of an iconoclastic figure, though. I mean, he'll do his thing for sure. I mean, I don't know him well enough to tell you if he's that dude or not. I will say this: he does have a father who likes to run his mouth, and that certainly doesn't help matters.
Chuck, your thoughts on Texas and the news that Quinn Ewers is going to miss a little bit of time? Not exactly sure how long, but Malik Murphy and then, Arch Manning right there waiting in the wings as well. It's been a good year despite that Oklahoma loss, but how do you see the rest of this way going for the Longhorns potentially?
Well, they said Malik Murphy had a great spring. We're about to find out if he's going to have a great fall. He's obviously athletically gifted. But as much as I think we all want to put this on the quarterback, Texas has got some significant injury problems in the secondary right now, which, again, playing in this league is never a good thing. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to Sark. And frankly, not even so much how Malik Murphy plays, but how Sark manages him. And, you look at that game last week, they're up 21-0. They're in total control of the game. And then, Sark calls for the fake field goal when he didn't have to do it. I mean, they're gonna make it. And they're gonna go up 24, and the game's gonna be over. And they missed it, and Houston went down the field and scored, and the game is on. And the game really got on, and to the point where, frankly, Texas ultimately was lucky to win the game. Got a pretty great break from the officials, and it should never come down to that. And I think if there is a knock that I would have on Sark, since he's been there, he's recruited great, he's recruited correctly, and I do think his guys play extremely hard. I do think his second half play calling and how they play in the second half of games is not good, and that's something that's got to change. That's something they've got to be able to figure out in order to better finish games than how they've done that here lately.
Let's go back to what you said about Whittingham, and also you brought up Chris Kleiman, because I saw a tweet you had over the weekend. If you had one of those two that you could choose from, could you lose with either one if you had those two to add to your to become a head coach?
You're telling me to ask among kids? Come on now, really? I mean, really? No, you will not lose. You will not lose. Listen, what? Kyle Whittingham. I think he's the second longest tenured coach now in college football in Division I, behind Kirk Ferentz. Frankly, I don't know how he continues to have his job given that offense, but somehow they managed to win a bunch of games. But they're awful. Utah is not awful. I mean, Utah was able to move up in class, into a Power 5 conference and be a great team. And been to the Rose Bowl twice. May go to the Rose Bowl again this year. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's something bigger in their future, depending on what happens in November. Because let's face it, in the Pac-12, you're going to play any number of games here in November that people are going to pay attention to. It's the best league in the country this year. It really is. And I don't think that anybody really can debate that. And Chris Kleiman, he really, even more than Whittingham, he reminds me of Bill Snyder, or his teams certainly remind me of the best Bill Snyder teams at Kansas State. They don't make mistakes. They just beat the ever-living hell out of you. And you're looking for the license plate of that Mack truck that just ran over you when you're playing them.
Chuck Cooperstein, again, ESPN broadcast voice of the Mavericks with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Chuck, what do you think of Nick Saban navigating, and this is not like a precipitous drop, but the least talented team he's had overall, but continue to find ways to win and coaching around their deficiencies?
Well, the league isn't very good this year. And to be honest with you, if we take an even bigger picture, 30,000-foot picture, who's really good in college football this year? I'm not sure there's anybody who's really good. Anybody that you look at and say, that team's not losing. I don't see that team. To Saban's credit and to his staff's credit, you know what? They got Jalen Milroe rebuilt. After getting benched the week after the South Florida game, which was just a horrific show. I guess he was benched for the South Florida game. He didn't play in that game, but they were just awful. And then, but how do you figure, like, they play that game they played, like, against Arkansas last week, and then Arkansas plays a 7-3 game with Mississippi State and loses that game. I don't know how good the competition is, but I will give them credit, for basically, we talk about Sark struggling in the second half. Well, Alabama figures it out in the second half. They certainly figured it out against Tennessee on Saturday, and they did it against Arkansas as well. They've done it a bunch of times this year, where even against Texas, they were much better in the second half than they were in the first half of that game. So, to their credit, they've been able to get some things done. But I can see Alabama. I can certainly see Alabama losing to LSU. I can see that game. I can see them losing to Auburn. Maybe they won't lose to Auburn because Auburn has no offense, but certainly they can lose to Georgia. This could certainly be a 3 or 4 loss Alabama team. I don't think that's out of the question. The fact that they've gotten to this point with only one loss, the one loss being the Texans, well, give them credit for that. They lost to a good team. So, but they're certainly not invincible by any stretch, but I certainly don't look at them as national championship worthy by any stretch.
Chuck, as many people know, you are a proud Florida Gator. Gators have the world's largest outdoor cocktail party coming up against Georgia, one of those teams who's undefeated and number one, but how good are they? Are they unbeatable? Probably not. Your thoughts on the Gators, though, and what you've seen with this 5-2 start, win over Tennessee, couple of tough losses, but how are you feeling about the direction of the program right now?
Well, Georgia will still be undefeated after this week, too.
Okay.
There are no illusions here at all. But as far as Florida's program, I think off the field, I think Billy Napier's doing exactly what he was brought in here to do. He's brought order. He's brought a structure and built an infrastructure that looks like a modern college football program. Florida was way, way behind, and it should never have been. But, first Jim McElwain and then, Dan Mullen, and even to a certain degree, Will Muschamp, really over the last 10 years, they've just not been where they should be, given the history of the program, the state that they're in, the conference that they play in, the recruits that are available to them. Billy's done a terrific, his recruiting class this year. Again, I don't follow recruiting all that much, but, all I know is I keep seeing they got like the second best quarterback in the country. They got the third best defensive end in the country. They got, the big defensive tackle that can shut people down. I think he's building it the right way. My issue with Billy right now is the stuff that happens really on the field. He wants to be everything. He wants to be the offensive coordinator. He wants to be the quarterback coach. He needs to be the head coach. Florida doesn't have a special teams coordinator. They divide up their special teams. And oftentimes it devolves into absolute chaos, frankly, on the field. And, they had a heck of a win, 2 weeks ago at South Carolina. Frankly, it was a win that probably, at least for a month anyway, got the Wolves off of Billy's back, because had they lost that game, and it would have meant the only road win that they would have had in Billy's tenure would have been at A&M last year, that would not have been good. And again, I don't know how good South Carolina is for that. I mean, South Carolina doesn't play much defense, but Florida's offense it's not the offense that people have come to expect from Florida. It's not explosive at all. It's a dink and dunk from Graham Mertz, who then, when he had to make a play against South Carolina, did make a play. Did get the ball down the field. They have good receivers. They have good runners. There's just not a lot of imagination in the offense at all. And, so to get that, try to get that figured out. I think the Austin Armstrong hiring, the young defense coordinator, I think he's going to be good. I think he is good. I think that he's got some aggression in that unit that wasn't there last year. But they're still very, very much a work in progress. No one is going to confuse them with the Urban Meyer Gators of 2008.
Chuck, are you okay with them just letting Graham Mertz wear 15 like that when they got the statue right outside? I was kind of surprised that number's not retired.
Well, Florida doesn't retire numbers. Okay. I mean, you got guys wearing 11, Spurrier's number. You got guys wearing 7, Danny Werfel's number. So, I mean, you just expect it. That's just the way it is.
Chuck, back to Game 7 tonight, Astros and Rangers. You've done and broadcast many games over the years, and I'm sure have attended Game 7s even as a fan or covering a game. Is there one that's more memorable to you than any others?
Well, my favorite Game 7 was the Mavericks in San Antonio as a broadcaster in 2006 when the Mavericks built a 20-point lead, blew the lead, looked like they were going to lose, and then Dirk, with 20 seconds to go, got fouled by Manu Ginobili on a 3-point play, tied the game. The Mavericks won in overtime, and obviously went on to the finals. I mean, the wave of emotion in that building, from absolute despair to absolute ecstasy, and then to complete devastation when the Mavericks won. There's nothing like it. I mean, it is. It's do or die. You're in or you're out. As a fan, my favorite Game 7 was Willis Reed's Game 7 as a kid in 1970 when the Knicks won the NBA championship against the Lakers. But Game 7s are cool. I mean, it's all on the line. I'm really interested to see just how well Max Scherzer handles this tonight. He obviously wasn't very good in Game 3, but they need him to be good tonight. I don't know they need him to be great, but they need to be able, I think, to get 5 innings out of him. And if they can do that, then you can bring Jordan Montgomery into the game at that point, because this is a bullpen day for him, and go try to win the game that way, and try to keep your bullpen as far away from the action as possible, because I don't know about you, my blood pressure is just totally through the roof when Nathan Eovaldi got pulled last night for Josh Sborz, and Sborz has been great. He's been really, really, really good in the postseason. But when Eovaldi's thrown like that and he gets taken out on a soft dinker by Altuve, to me that's just right. I'm going to ride or die with that guy until he tells me he can't go anymore.
Yeah,
but that's not baseball today. But it's an all hands on deck night for everybody, and I can't wait to see who's going to be a hero. Somebody's going to be a hero tonight.
I just don't know if I emotionally can go to another series if they win tonight. I guess I'll have to find a way to get myself in fan shape because it's been so long. But that's just me watching the Rangers for years.
But it's interesting. Like when the Mavericks a couple of years ago when they beat Phoenix in the second round. And then you're going on to play Golden State. I mean, they're the Warriors. They were obviously they weren't good the year before, but they're still they got that rep. But it felt like so much was already accomplished by beating Phoenix and the rivalry that existed in that series and winning Game 7 the way they won Game 7. It was almost like what happened afterward didn't matter, and yet it obviously matters because those games are even more important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Coop, thank you as always, buddy. Great to have you on the show whenever we can. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Dallas Mavericks, with us. Known him for years. Great broadcaster. Appreciate his time on 365 Sports. When we come back, Matt Brown, extra points on many things college football, including his thoughts about NIL and the possibility, or at least there was a plan, to maybe feed money into the HBCUs. That did not work out. That and more, Matt Brown, next on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great customer service whenever you go over to the dealership or talk to them over the phone or email them. But also, when you are over there, you're checking out their various offers. They've got great deals. They've also got the great customer service that I mentioned, and they've got a great lineup of cars, trucks, and SUVs to check out today and hopefully drive away in. And right now, over at the dealership, it's a little bit of a mess out front with Highway 6 undergoing a lot of construction, so they want to make it easier for you to buy a new vehicle while it's harder to get over to them. Right now, qualified buyers can save over $7,000 on a new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500 and can also finance for 0.9% financing with dozens of Sierras on the lot. They've got the inventory, they've got the pricing, the financing to get you in a new GMC Sierra truck today, and military and first responders can save an additional $500. Same goes for the offers with the Buick lineup. A perfect combination, first-class luxury and value, ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers. Buick offers amazing value, and right now you can save $5,000 on a new full-size 2023 Buick Enclave or save $4,000 on a 2023 midsize Buick Envision. And as I said, military and first responders save an additional $500. They also trade for the best, so if you're looking for pre-owned vehicles or you're looking to trade in your vehicle, they can help you out there. The financing goal, though, at Richard Carr is 100% credit approval, as they say yes when others say no. And also, if that wasn't enough for you, their award-winning service department is always standing by to keep you on the road and cannot be beat currently on tires, offering a price match guarantee on the lowest price comparable tires in town. Service your car or truck with the people you can count on over at Richard Carr. In business for 24 years in Central Texas, run by proud Central Texans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Matt Brown, Extra Points, has been with us many times. Love the knowledge, insight. He joins us on 365 Sports. Matt, I want to start with this and want to get into the article you had late last week about NIL, HBCUs, and revenue sharing, et cetera. But what are your thoughts about, despite what maybe nothing can be done, of what's happening with the latest news out about Michigan and one of their staffers?
I got to be honest. I do think this is an objectively funny college football scandal, which are my favorite kinds. Nobody really got hurt. You have a guy whose real name was baptized as Connor Stallions, which feels like from the Joey Freshwater school of made up names.
Yeah.
And then I can't imagine anything more Michigan than a guy potentially being busted for NCAA violations because of what he posted on LinkedIn. That's the most Michigan crime imaginable. Like, of course, this is very funny. Like, what I can share, I don't think I've written this anywhere yet, but I had talked to some folks involved with the NCAA investigations and on the compliance side outside of Big Ten country, where they have been hearing about this particular, investigation. My understanding is that, similar to what Pete had shared earlier today, the NCAA is going to get a lot of video evidence here. I think potentially even some audio evidence. I have no idea what they're going to do. It's not. There's no precedent for this, particularly because this is such a big name program having a historical season. No one's ever faced a postseason ban or had this kind of cheating litigated before. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is some great moral outrage and Michigan must have their eligibility terminated immediately and Jim Harbaugh needs to be sent to a work camp in Siberia. It's not anywhere near on that kind of scale, but it is funny. and I would be very, very surprised if it turns out that this gentleman was either innocent or acting without the knowledge of higher ups at Michigan.
Yeah, on Connor Stalions' name on Friday's show, I said that Connor Stalions is not a coach. That is your Channel 9 news anchor. News at 6 with Connor Stalions and Gail Justice. Like that's what his name is.
That's exactly right, and it's got to be like a tier 3 or a tier 4 television market. Like, hi, I'm Connor Stallions here out of Wichita Falls or Grand Rapids. Like, Connor Stallions isn't working in Houston. Connor Stallions is a little bit farther down the Nielsen rating.
Yeah, Matt. The NIL hearings last week. Yeah. The 10th NIL hearings. Does this kind of prove that maybe nothing is really going to get done? I mean, there's really no motivation for it right now, and they have much bigger fish to fry, considering that one branch of the government's not even functioning right now. But it doesn't seem like there's really motivation other than using this for publicity.
We're in a really weird spot with these hearings because there are a handful of U.S. senators and their staffers who, honest to God, really do care about this and really do want to make it happen. And it isn't just the people in front of the cameras. Like we know that Senator Chris Murphy's people and Cory Booker's people are motivated to look into this. Tommy Tuberville's people are motivated, but I've been told there's 5 or 6 more, but it's certainly not a majority, and many of them aren't leading the relevant committees. And then to your point, it's mid-October, and it's very unlikely that bipartisan significant legislation gets passed anywhere in mid-October, because we're heading into a presidential election year, and everybody in the U.S. House and a bunch of these senators have got to focus on re-election. You have multiple international crises. You have a border crisis. You have more concerns about inflation. And then, to say all of that, we literally don't have a Speaker of the House. So even if there was appetite to get this legislation done from more important people, I don't think that I think the calendar is going to run out because the House is so dysfunctional right now, and the kind of people. I don't want this to get partisan. The kind of people that are likely to eventually win the speaker's election from the House right now are not the kind of people that have a strong negotiating relationship with their Democratic counterparts in the Senate, which makes shepherding this thing through very, very unlikely.
All right, so I read the story, I think it was Friday afternoon. Was there a time when Congress was discussing NIL, and one of the ways that they could make this happen was also to help truly feed revenue in any way to the HBCUs?
Yes. So this is what I learned here. I talked to some staffers that were close to Senator Maria Cantwell, who's the head of the Commerce Committee. She's the Democratic senator out of Washington. When these Senate bills were in negotiations like a year and a half ago, there was actually some pretty broad agreement between Democrats and Republicans working on the bills about the NIL stuff. The question on the Democratic side was, some of the other non-NIL things they wanted to stick in the bill. One of the things that Cantwell's people wanted and other Senate Democrats wanted was to make sure that all college athletes could have access to post-graduation healthcare treatments for, I think, 2 to 3 years, similar to what's in the NCAA Transformation Committee, to expand that a little bit. So if you got to tore your ACL your senior year, if you're playing, basketball for Incarnate Word, that you wouldn't be on the hook for the treatment immediately afterwards. The problem was that dozens and dozens of low major Division I institutions, including many HBCUs, but not exclusively. This is also Southland Conference schools, NEC kind of schools. We're saying we can't afford that. We can't afford the insurance premiums of expanding coverage to 500 people on campus. The Democratic response was, let's do some revenue sharing from either the NCAA central office, maybe so a couple of major conferences, major programs, to help offset the premiums to pay for insurance for little guys. That fell apart, and I was told specifically because Greg Sankey works to kill it. Where the SEC was kind of taking the lead in lobbying, saying we will not support that kind of revenue sharing. That bill fell apart, and now here we are, no bill, no revenue sharing.
That is not a shock to me that the major conferences would not be into that idea. Matt?
No. It's almost as if it only ever happens in the pros. If it's attached to some major concession from labor and through contentious, bargaining, which isn't able to happen here. No, I'm not surprised that Texas A&M hypothetically would not want to give money to Incarnate Word.
Matt, I had a message on our message board, SicEm365.com, asking me to ask you about the college football video game that eventually is released and whether or not have any teams actually signed up to be a part of that.
Yes. I talked to some developers. I believe that number is well north of 120 FBS teams that have formally signed the paperwork. The expectation on the EA side and in the licensing community side is that every single FBS institution will be involved. I believe that will be 134. Will include Kennesaw State for the release for next year. I can confirm it includes Kennesaw State because I've seen what they sent in. I have all the helmets and the uniforms and the audio that they submitted to EA Sports. It's not even really a hang up, but the reason that a handful of schools haven't formally signed the paperwork yet is because they said they weren't going to do it unless the athletes could be paid. Well, now the athletes can be paid, but the contract hasn't been sent over yet. That contract's not expected to be sent over until next spring. And so when that happens, the schools will then execute the contracts. Although people at EA have told me those holdouts, which are schools like Northwestern and Notre Dame and Tulane, they've still been sharing assets. They've still been communicating as if they're going to be a part of the game. So everybody should be in the game.
All right. I saw this tweet. Do you have this up, Garrett, on Emmanuel Acho and what he said following the USC loss to Utah? Caleb Williams should consider sitting out the rest of the season. Heisman long shot. College playoffs less likely. He won't play in the bowl game. The risk of playing far outweighs the reward business decision. What say you?
Well, I am not surprised that a lot of other national commentators have responded very negatively about that. I understand where Emmanuel's coming from here, but we've had a couple of people do this, and it generally hasn't worked out that well for them. And one of the challenges here for Caleb, right, is the kind of word on this guy is, enormously physically gifted. One of the most productive college quarterbacks ever, certainly over like the last 15 years. And the kind of the potential concern, right, is he a team player? Is he selfish? Is this that's kind of the side conversation about all of them there? And if you failed with like 6 games left, when you still have a lot to play for, you could still make the Pac-12 championship game. You could still be a part of hang a banner. You would get a lot of criticism for that. If he was injured, I think people would be understanding if he decided to sit for the last 6 weeks, if there was a chance he could aggravate some other significant injury. But at the end of the day, like, you play college football to play college football. Mm-hmm. And if there's an opportunity to still win a lot of games and do things that are meaningful and important and for your legacy, of course you still want to do that.
Do you think that some NFL teams would cross him off their list, or is he just so talented there's no way that they would put an asterisk next to him?
I think that's the kind of thing where a scout or a GM or some self-satisfied person in an NFL personnel room would tweet that they've taken him off their list and then still take him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if Caleb Williams was the 9th best quarterback in this class, if he was a projected 4th rounder, yeah, I could see somebody, just scratching him off. But if he's the near consensus number 1 pick, he could do things a hell of a lot worse than sit out 6 games to be automatically removed from somebody's draft board. This is the NFL. It's not the Boy Scouts.
Absolutely. Matt, as always, thank you, man. Appreciate what you do. Appreciate your time with us.
Of course. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on,
Matt Brown, publisher of Extra Points, that note about over 120, and every FBS school will be a part of the video game, thanks to the question that was sent to me in a direct message off of the website. Matt Brown, appreciate his time on 365 Sports. When we come back, J.J. Joe. Baylor did not have a run play until the 4th series at Cincinnati. What did he see that was different, or what that he could tell pretty quickly? Can they continue that, sustain that, and more? And then just after 5 o'clock, True Serum Deluxe with Phil Bennett. He'll join us on. This is 365 Sports. Just now got a text from Ted Teague, CEO, General Manager at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. The 2023 Ram Lone Star Crew Cabs, 0% financing for 72 months and $8,000 off. Limited supply. Hurry, don't wait. 2023 Ram 2500 heavy duties, now $4,000 in total values on hard-to-get workhorses, and the 2023 cab and chassis 4500 in stock for the guy who wants to pull a house. Pre-owned deals, hot and nice. That's what I bought there, a pre-owned vehicle when I bought there in the summer of 2020. They just traded for a 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Track Hawk, 18,000 miles. Will get you there, not only in luxury, but warp speed. They have 2 pre-owned BMWs, a 2019 X7, a 2020 X4. Nice cars, a 2020 Volvo XC40 with 47,000 miles, a 2022 Mercedes E350 E-Class under 20,000 miles, 2 pre-owned Jeep Wagoneers, and that is a great car too, an SUV. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, as we are right here in the month of October. I just told you that is fresh off what the text was from Ted Teague, General Manager, Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This segment with former Baylor quarterback and Baylor radio analyst J.J. Joe is sponsored by Alliance Bank Central Texas, where customers have confidence that their financial needs are in good hands with 2 locations in Waco.
Big 12 again this week. Fox Sports is their noon kickoff will be at Kansas with Oklahoma, Houston at K-State, West Virginia UCF, Iowa State at Baylor, and then BYU at Texas, Cincinnati at Oklahoma State. J.J. Joe, Baylor radio color analyst, former Baylor quarterback, joins us on 365 Sports. J.J., when did you notice that they had not run a single running play in that game until the 4th series against Cincinnati on Saturday?
Well, Smoak, my job is to analyze, and I recognized pretty quick that we hadn't gotten Reese or Dawson or Dominique the ball pretty early. So, I remember when they handed it off for the first time, and I'm guessing here a little bit. I think it was one to Reese, but it may have been Dominique. But I knew pretty early. I think maybe we got to the second quarter before we handed it off to a running back. So I recognized pretty early that our approach is going to be a little different today.
JJ, what did you think of the changes they made along the offensive line?
I liked them. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know much about Colton. I'll be honest. Price, I just kind of heard that he's kind of a nasty guy, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way for a lineman. That he likes to play up to the edge. I think that's very similar. I heard that about Clark. That Clark kind of likes to play towards the edge, of aggressiveness. But I did like it. I thought, even though we didn't run it early to really test them, we did late. I thought the middle seemed a little sounder. And I'll tell you something, guys. There's a few times in the game where, as a quarterback, I actually think I said this on the air to Jay Moe. I said I think there was some pushing going on between Barrington and Price, or one of them, and the defensive tackles. And I said I like that. And what that meant to me is that when you have linemen that are a little bit edgy, it can get you in trouble with some penalties. But I think this group of guys needs a few players that like to play right up to that edge and sometimes will step over it. So I like the changes.
So, JJ, they made those changes. They also very clearly, we're not trying to establish the run early on, knowing that was a strength of Cincinnati and a weakness of theirs. Eventually opened that up a bit more in the second half. But Rand also mentioned, not hitting on some of the RPOs. And there were at least a couple of throws I can think of. One to Ketron Jackson down the middle of the field that they just could not expose and connect on that. Obviously, Blake's got to hit those. But outside of that, is this something that's sustainable? Is this a style that you can see them deploying for these next 5 games and having some success?
I think so. I mean, I think it'll be tough next week a little bit because Iowa State plays a little different.
Right.
They're a little bit more base, a little bit more sound. They take a fewer chances. They both teams tackle well. So I think, that we'll be able to incorporate just like our traditional run game a little bit more. I mean, we just kind of went all the way from one side to the other, I thought. But if you see those 2 D tackles, if you saw the Godfather and then the other guy called the father because he actually is a father of 3 children. So I mean, those guys are big, thick guys, man. And you can see why we just went the other way. But I like the RPOs. And I wrote this for you guys today. I said that I actually am not discouraged by them missing RPOs because, number one, we haven't run that diet of them this season. And that means that we've really probably worked on them the last couple of weeks with extensive action. And working them in a scrimmage or in practice is so far removed from full speed in the game that I know that by next week, Blake will know, okay, this is Ketron's tempo on the RPO. This is Cameron. And he'll connect on those because Blake is accurate. Blake just doesn't miss that much. So I was at least that's the positive side.
I looked this up, and I did not know he threw 42 passes. I think last year against Oklahoma State, he threw 40. I believe he also completed more passes in that game and attempted more passes in that game than he has at any time. Now, last year was a full year. 21 was a small sample size. It does show, man, he can wing it around a little bit.
Hey, I mean, Dave, to me, when you commit to Blake, there's only one reason you're going to Blake. And that's why I said, I said last time, I didn't understand why we didn't get receivers. Well, now you have a few receivers, I do feel. Now, sometimes we get in a matchup issue. We miss Hal. I hate that Hal's going to be out the rest of the season. Even Jonah, I think, is out. But I think we have enough guys on the edge. But when you go to Blake, I think you can throw the ball. I don't think you want to throw it 42 times every week. But I think you can throw the ball between 30 and 40 times every week with Blake, and he's going to give you something, especially when you have, I think, the good mix of receivers we have. You have and here's the thing. Monterey, if they hit him a couple times, he has 100 yards easy, but Blake didn't see him. But Monterey cleared so much for these guys on Saturday. I mean, you should have saw the commitment by Cincinnati to bracket Monterey, which opened up a couple digs for Josh and opened up Ketron. So I think you can throw a Smoak, 30 to 35, 37 times. And with this mix of guys, we may need to be up into that 30 range anyway.
JJ, how much do you think Ketron Jackson took a step forward in just his aggressiveness and not being denied in some cases? And there was still more meat on the bone. Like I mentioned with Blake, hits him on a couple throws. He may find the end zone on one of those, but huge game, obviously, for Ketron. What do you think that means moving forward?
Well, I think a couple things. I think one, Coach Randall mentioned, I think they like the matchup a little bit better than maybe the previous week. I think Tech had a pretty decent guy on the edge, a couple of them. And I think there's one other, I forget which game it was. They had a pretty good match. I think they like the matchup. And I think it also helps when receivers know, man, hey, we're gonna chunk it today. That, you go into the game with a whole different a little pep in your step, trust me. And I think they knew coming in that, like, Ketron ended up with, I think, 11 targets, and I think Monterey had 10, or that may be vice versa. And when you know, man, you're going to get looks, dude, it changes your whole mindset going into the game. And I was happy to see Ketron make catches that I think we all thought he would make earlier in the season. He's now finding his groove a little bit.
Yeah, there was one when he kind of went up. There was a pack around him. He went up and grabbed it and came down with it. It didn't bounce loose. It's kind of like, okay, it's going to pop loose. So on the broadcast, the television broadcast, I listened to a lot of what you do, but also was on the broadcast. Somebody brought up that they said that a lot of players met with Aranda during the off week and mentioned that they did not want some fake rah-rah stuff. They didn't want that. They wanted knowledge, X's and O's, and football content. And the younger players maybe that was kind of over their head by this emotion or energy. And you hear the fan base, he's not emotional enough. He's never going to be that way. That's who he is. And apparently it made a difference a little bit, at least for 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Aranda, they're just telling him, hey, man, be who you are. I mean, we've heard some stuff of what they're trying to do. They're just trying to – coaches are looking for buttons to push. I mentioned this last week to you guys. That every team, even though it has similar players, is so different. The stuff it takes to get guys going. And I'm always a believer that, yeah, it's the coach's job to get these guys going. But then also in combination with that, the veterans on this team. And that's what we saw the other day, Keytron. He's a veteran. He's only been here a short time, but he's a junior, senior, whatever it is. Matt Jones had a good game. We didn't talk about it much, but he had 9-10 tackles. He's a veteran. So the combination between coaches and upperclassmen players, they have to be the ones that bring those young players along. Monterey's in that group. And I was glad to see it seemed like the level of energy and effort and just aggressiveness was there from the start. Maybe the week off helped. And I'm going to tell you, they talk about Coach Aranda not being fired. If you would have saw him on those sidelines, I mean, he was showing that, hey, we need this. And I think they like him in that environment showing gas versus maybe, trying to do a lot at different times in pregame, et cetera.
JJ, to this week, a suddenly resurgent Iowa State team that's very physical up front on both sides of the ball. This is going to be, a few weeks ago, this was one of the games, and look, they still could, but where you talked about, okay, well, this is maybe a get-right spot for Baylor, but they're going to have to come with it because it's going to be a street fight.
No, it is. And one thing that Iowa State's going to do, and I wrote this today too, is that the one thing that this team still has to learn, number one, can I put back-to-back efforts together? We had a good effort at Utah, then we came back and had not so good effort against Long Island, even though we won, and not so good effort against Texas. So they have to put good efforts back to back with energy present. And then the next thing is we have to learn that once you get a chance, because our team, the margin of error for this team is not there. So when they get a chance, when they get a 20-7 lead like they did on Saturday, and you get the ball back, or they get the ball, your defense is out there, you have to try to put a chokehold on a team. And if you don't, a team like Iowa State, who is sound, who is going to make tackles, who is not going to make mistakes, they're going to force you to beat them, and then they're going to watch you beat yourself. That's what they'll do. And that's what they did to Cincinnati a couple weeks ago. So it'll be tough on Saturday, but I'm going to tell you this. Coming to this season, I didn't think Iowa State would win 3-4 games, max. They're at 4-1 or 4-2, whatever they are, guys. You know what they are. Yeah. And I think from a talent perspective, maybe it's even. I don't know. I'm not analyzing rosters yet. I don't think it's a big gap where Iowa State is like, 3 levels. They have 3 levels more better talent than we have. But I think right now they're more confident. And on Saturday, I'm hoping our guys build on what they had this past Saturday.
JJ, what was your Queen City and Nippert Stadium experience like?
Hey, it was nice, man. I'm telling you, the stadium was a little smaller than I expected. I mean, I don't know what I expected. It was a little smaller, but I liked where it was. It held sound pretty good. I like going to the Queen City. That's the first time I've been to Cincinnati itself. And the only thing I hate is I was trying to get across the street. We went to someplace, and I was trying to get across the street to get some Reds gear, man. These jokers closing at like 5:30. I'm trying to say, what's up with that?
I didn't know
you were Salt Lake City.
I didn't know you were a Reds fan, JJ.
Hey, man, I grew up in Arlington. I'm a Rangers fan, but the one thing that I did when it was the old Big 12, like we would go places like it was kind of new for me because I didn't play these. Like I went to Nebraska, I got a sweater. We went to different places. I always got a sweater or something just to have. I got my boys some shirts or something just to say, hey man, it's me. I probably won't go here very often, so. That's all I want. I'm just trying to grab some Rays gear.
So, being a Rangers fan, you a little excited about Game 7 tonight after that? How that finished Friday and then also last night?
Hey, Dave, I'm very excited. You know what I'm saying? I was hoping that Garcia would like dance around the sideline, around the base that last time when he got that. So the guys would hit him and get us a free base runner here early in this game, right? I mean, that's what I was hoping. But no, man, I grew up. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I'll be honest. I do watch the World Series pretty much every year, but I'm a Rangers fan because I grew up literally a mile and a half from the stadium. I used to go to the boys' club. Grew up in the boys' club. Then it's now the Boys and Girls Club. We used to always go to Arlington Stadium. We got free tickets. So I knew all the old guys. So it's good to see them back, at least with an opportunity.
JJ, thank you, man. Great to have you on the show when we do. Appreciate your time. And again, his column, it is right up every Monday in Sikkim365.com in the premium section. JJ, we appreciate it. That's JJ Joe with us. I think it may even go up Sunday night and available in the premium section by the end of the weekend. When we come back, Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach. He's next. This is 365 Sports.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We're about to run down college football, the evidence from over the weekend. Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, was the assistant coach at Baylor as defensive coordinator, head coach at SMU, and interim coach at Pitt, joins us on 365 Sports. So let's start with Ohio State, Penn State. National game, physical as hell. Ohio State always seems to have just a few more weapons. And what you saw in that game in what was 100,000 plus.
You know, I tell you, the first thing that got me was how physical the front was, both sides. It was just, I thought it was a physical game, good fit, receivers getting hit, backs getting hit, quarterbacks getting hit. Whoever took the under in that game made a hell of a bet. It was really a physical, you know, they had one more player than what Penn State had. And, you know, Penn State played hard and had some opportunities. They had the biggest play of the game. I guess it was a penalty. Remember the sack fumble that really would have flipped the game for them on defense. And they just didn't get the break. But for a defensive coach, it was fun to watch.
I'm sure you had tears in your eyes based on how it used to be. Coach, you mentioned the big play. They got called back. When you're on the road in an environment like Ohio State, which is one of the hardest places to play in all of sports, not just college football, anywhere you go in the world is going to be pretty hard compared to, or maybe easier compared to Columbus and how that place gets. How hard is it to reel your guys back from that in the moment, especially given that you need plays like that to happen in games like that so you can win?
You saw what happened in the game, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
It was deflating. I mean, you could watch, and at that point, they're sitting there, and the doubt set in. You know, are we going to get a break? Are we going to have the opportunity to get this crowd out of it? And now, listen. When I was at Purdue, this is a great story. John Cooper was at Ohio State. We go in there. I think we were 30-point underdogs, and we whacked them. I mean, we beat them like we owned the place, and it was crazy. He had a big contract with a company up there called Big Bear. That was it was like a Walmart or something, and they had the whole stadium. I mean, it was loud. I'm saying, what are they saying? And they were singing, "Let's go Krogering," because that's what they didn't like John Cooper. So that place is intimidating.
Coach, USC and Utah, quite the game on Saturday night. The Utes get a win despite the fact that they've been without their stars and now have shut down Cam Rising for the rest of the year. USC had the comeback and then the just atrocious 15-yard penalty to extend the Utah drive by Bear Alexander. I was just curious, is the label of USC and being soft and all that, do you believe in that? And also as a defensive coach, how would you have handled the Bear Alexander penalty and talking to that young man and then using it as a teaching lesson? Like, how would that all have gone in your book?
The thing that I saw in the game, you know, I say this all the time. Defense is about fit against the run and distribution and pass. And in that, you have to play technique. I don't see USC being a great fit team, cover team, or technique team. I haven't seen it since he's been there. And that's coaching. And you see things. The thing with Bear, we all know you're going to have penalties. But that's one of the reasons I think that he left Georgia. I mean, there's a discipline factor that you've got to have in football. You know, it can't be about you. It's got to be about us. And I always use the term, those are selfish penalties. And that was a senseless penalty. It turned the game. And then, of course, the scramble, the next play, I stayed up and watched every down of it. Turned the whole game up. And you could realize, you knew then at that point the game was in doubt after a great job by USC's offense. But the team as a whole is just not a very disciplined team. And very few championship teams, you know, have those problems. And I think USC, it sort of exemplifies of what we're seeing. They're getting what they show.
I have to ask you a follow-up on what was the Bear Alexander penalty, the dumb penalties, the selfish penalties. Who had more of those in your career as a coach, a football player, and would either one of them be named Orion Stewart or Ahmad Dixon?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something, Smoke. I'm gonna have to talk to you after the show because I'm gonna have to put a little adjectives in there. Let me tell you something. You know, you take the good with the bad. I mean, in some kids, you really do. And those two, you know, I tell you, I've always told you, we had love-hate relationship. I loved them. They hated me. But I told them, I said, you know what I'm doing for you? I'm saving you from yourself. And I believe that. I believe college coaches, that's your job. They don't know what they don't know. You've got to save these kids now more than ever from themselves. Because with TV, with social media, everybody's got a gig. And football's not like that. It is a game. It is the utmost team game. And you just can't afford to have them. So, in answer to your question, I'm just smiling.
Hey, I think it's unfair to leave Mike Hicks out of that discussion as well.
Hey, Cholo's birthday today. So,
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's his birthday. So, I used to tell him, I said, what do they call you? What do they call you? And he said, they call me Cholo. So I texted him today and I called him. I used to always screw it up on purpose. I said, happy birthday, Ocho.
Phil, how do coaches feel about what has been alleged with sign stealing at Michigan and going and doing in-person scouting and videoing the sidelines that is being investigated right now?
Listen, I knew something was up when my boy Schiano at Rutgers at that game. You remember the halftime speaking with the girl on the sideline? Mm-hmm. He was so pissed about something. And obviously they had their signals. And so, listen, I hate that. I can't. I mean, to me, that's if you can't coach it. I remember somebody told me one time, "Hey, I got signals. I can do it." I said, "I don't want them. I don't want them." You know, to me, it compromises your integrity of being a good coach. You know, I've had guys try to do that or ask me to do it. I won't do it. I've never done it. I refuse to do it. But yeah, I think without question, it's gone on there. And obviously, you know, they're a gray line team. They try to do things, you know, to the upteenth degree. Well, in our mind and, you know, the sportsmanship and the integrity, they're cheating. And it looks like it's going to, you know, really backfire them from a guy that I think was in the Marines and talks about having integrity. You know, I guess he bought all the tickets. They said he had tickets to the Ohio State, Penn State game. You know, those weren't easy to come by. Mm-mm. I want to know who's paying for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of details to sort through, but it's a very interesting story that has a lot of layers left to peel off, it feels like. Coach of...
And, you know, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think they would have lost any game without having the signals, truly?
No. It's like Pete Rose.
And it might keep them. Who knows? I know the NCAA is not all shot in the ass with him right now. Mm-hmm. And who knows, it could keep them from having a chance to play for the championship.
Yep. It'll be very interesting to see how that continues on. Coach, a couple of the Big 12 newbies nearly had massive wins this weekend against the two departing schools. UCF comes up short against Oklahoma, who stays unbeaten. But Houston, down in their own park, nearly knock off the Longhorns. Quinn Ewers is now going to miss some time, but Texas does get the stop there at the end. I know there's questions about the spot. Just your thoughts on what you saw there.
I'm telling you, it looked like a Longhorn spotter to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was a first down. I really did. Now, there's other people. I said this to a guy. He shot me a picture of a face mask by the offensive lineman at U of H. But I tell you, it was Houston played their tail off. Highly competitive game. Got back in the game. Donovan Smith is to be contended with. I mean, any quarterback that can extend plays is dangerous. And you saw that. I think the quarterback, it's going to be interesting. I see a dramatic drop-off in the way that Sarkisian calls plays with Malik than what he did with Ewing in that game. I don't know if it'll be, if it will come to pass. I want to watch this Kansas-Oklahoma game because I'm telling you, with Plumlee back, UCF went toe-to-toe with OU. And of course, I'm not going to be critical of the coach on the 2-point play, but, I saw that run twice Saturday. Did y'all see the other one who run it?
No.
No, they ran it, and the 2-point play, I want to say it was another good team. It was a night game. Oh, I tell you who it was. It was Clemson.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I believe it was Clemson ran it a double pass. I'm not exact, but I saw it twice, and both of them were 2-point plays. And, I thought that what a great job, by obviously the corner sank, great push by number 15 at OU, but, they had no problem going right down the field. The margin between good, great, and average is small. That's why I think this conference can be fun. You go back to the Baylor Cincinnati game, hell of a game, but there's a lot of things going on right now, and these teams that Texas is, the OU, nothing. I think a lot of things can happen right now, and without Ewing, it's going to be interesting to see these next games as Texas plays how they're going to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things the MO with Texas before when a quarterback like this comes in, they stay aggressive. Now, whether they do that or not, I don't know. But, yeah, there was this thought, and I think it was, I guess you could say it was realistic that Texas and OU were going to play again, right, for the Big 12 title.
Yeah,
but all of a sudden you look at what teams are turning the corner, like Oklahoma State, Kansas State's back on track, BYU's at least playing pretty well. Then you have Iowa State who's grinding, there are. Can you always explain, even though you were a part of many blowouts in a good way, nothing is ever that easy?
It's hard to win, David. Hard to win. And jumping ahead to the Baylor game, I was tickled to death. I thought Jeff Grimes, with all the trash talk that's been up, did a great job. I mean, they didn't run the ball till 5 minutes to go in the half?
Yep.
I mean, that they attacked them. I'm telling you, trust me, it put Cincinnati on their heels, and they couldn't recover. They did not prepare for that. And Chapin played good. He ran, when he scrambled, he kept plays going. They got on their heels. And there's not many times, and I've said this before, you win games like Baylor's defense giving up almost 7 yards a snap. I mean, rushing. But their offense won the game. I mean, the receivers, they were on. And I thought that Cincinnati got totally – I don't know if you saw I'm sitting there watching. They were trying to talk to him, and finally the guy that was drawing on the board just threw the board down and walked off. And I don't know if him and the guy in the press box got into it, but the first half they were extremely frustrated. And fortunately for us, they weren't able to regroup to win it. They got better. They went to a run game and almost got back in, but they weren't able to do it.
Phil, if you were the defensive coordinator for BYU, would you, in his first start, since it is Malik Murphy's first start, at least early on, take some more chances than you would if Quinn Ewers was back there because you might be able to get in his head?
Absolutely. I tell you that story in 2012 when we were down and we had people hurt, and I knew. I said that's when the light came on. We've got to be different. I can't worry about we're not good enough to get stops playing base. We've got to create situations of second long and third long. First down is such a crucial down. And I go back again, that's what Baylor did on them. They got them on first down and they're going, oh, wow, they haven't done this. And they couldn't do it. I think that it's going to be interesting to me
with BYU, Tech they're going to play a different quarterback, but this is the second week in a row that they're playing a quarterback that is a backup in Texas Tech and Texas.
Coach, this is random, but I was just wondering, after seeing some of the great crowds this past weekend, what was the toughest place that you ever walked into to coach a game?
I remember one year when I was at LSU, when Florida was Spurrier, really had it going. And we went down there. It was a big game. We had the number one defense in the SEC, and he had what was the quarterback's name? That he wasn't an NFL guy, but Chris Doran was the receiver. And,
Danny Werfel.
Danny Werfel,
yeah.
and it was, of all my games, of course, that playing in the big house when we beat them there, and we lost to them there also. That was a good place, but Florida was the place I went, wow. I mean, and it was probably as close to LSU as I'd ever got, because at LSU, week in and week out, I think it's the best atmosphere.
I've been that place many times as an enemy combatant, Coach, and that place will shake your bones.
You were dressed out in pads and everything?
No, just no. My only armor was liquid, but
wow,
it was. Hey, and you and about 100,000 others.
Yeah. You walk in the door, and even if you didn't have any liquid, you felt like it was in your veins. I love the question about Ryan Stewart and Ahmad Dixon. God bless both of them. And then you mentioned the coach that had the board and he threw it down, and whoever. Can you explain the greatest reality series ever would be the talking among coaches on headsets during a game?
Oh my God! Have you? Speaking of that, have you ever seen the? You need to find this deal they did on what was the guy that looked like a Walrus that was the coach for the Green Bay Packers?
Mike Holmgren.
And went to Holmgren. He on his staff, he had Mariucci, Andy Reid, and somebody else.
I think he had
Gruden. Gruden. And they're sitting there, and they're talking, and he is tearing far above it. He goes, "All right, Brett, here we go. Good. Let's get it." And Brett throws an interception. He turns. He says, "He's the dumbest. You know what?" And there was a penalty. And then I said, "Okay. Let's do it again. Then he tells Mariucci, he goes, "That was the stupidest call I've ever." I mean, you could make the fun. It would put that soccer show that's so hot on it to pieces, because it would be that funny. I know this. I've said some things that I would never say again
on the headset.
Yeah, and to kids sometimes.
To players worse than other coaches that you were with on staff?
I always let my players. I was hard on them, but if I always let them go off. If they need to go off on me, I let them.
Yep.
I didn't get mad. I'd laugh. I say that's pretty good. I know this that when we had the blackout the year playing Oklahoma, and we're down there and we make a start, and Ahmad Dixon is in the end zone, turns his back. They go to hurry up, and they snap the ball, and he's being a cheerleader. And KJ Morton sees it, and on his own runs a stunt and stops the quarterback Bell on fourth down. And everybody said, "Why were you so mad?" Because I was watching Ahmad. And Ahmad will tell you, that might have been the only time he was afraid to come to the sideline. And Ahmad is a tough dude.
Yeah, no, he is. But God bless him. God bless those relationships. And can you do that now? I'm not saying that coaches can't still coach and get pissed off at a player.
No, listen, there's got to be a balance. They got to know that it's more than football. I know Bryce Hager told me one time, he goes, "Coach, we used to think you were damn Jekyll and Hyde." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, me and Eddie and Ahmad would walk out as soon as practice over. make us start over and start practice over and, get your ass off the field. And then you walk up to me, hey, how'd your mom and dad doing? I'd look at you like you really give it a rat's ass? Or, he said, we thought you were crazy. But, you got to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing they got to know. And I used to tell them, hey, listen, if you need me at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, you call me. And trust me, in Waco, Texas, they will all tell you it's happened. Mm-hmm. I've been there.
Phil, yeah. But aren't those do you miss those relationships more than even, I'm not saying game day or coaching because that's in your blood and will probably be something you do again, my God. But do you miss that? Is that what you miss, the relationships with the kids?
Absolutely. You miss the relationship with the kids, the coaches, and as I've said this many times, football breeds character. Everything that you want to be successful in life, you have to do in football, being involved in football. Everybody's got a role. Everybody's got to sacrifice. And it's bigger than you. You do it for, you got a cause. And that's the thing I loved about our time at Baylor. I've coached them everywhere I've been, I've loved. But that was special. That's why we won back-to-back championships. And I truly believe would have been a three-peat and maybe a national champion in 15 if we would have had a quarterback, just any quarterback. And just one of our quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. It was just a special group of guys, and it still breaks my heart, to see them not get the credit that they deserve with everything that's happened.
I think that's about to change. I think the 2013 team, now that something has ended, will probably be honored sooner than you think, which will be great.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
They were an awesome group.
One note statistically about Alabama. We know it's been a struggle for them because the standard was so high. I saw this note from Aaron Torres. In the wins against Ole Miss, A&M, and Tennessee, the Alabama defense has given up a combined 6 total second-half points. Kevin Steele is their defensive coordinator. I know around Baylor that's like a cuss word, but he's been around the quite a bit. And what does that say about what they're doing?
Well, it says that Kevin listen, they were a mess last year, and it wasn't happening. That's why Kevin's there. He knows what Nick wants to do. Now, don't kid yourself. Nick's still involved, but Kevin is calling it, and he's calling it the way that Nick wants to call it. And they're doing a heck of a job coaching it. And it doesn't surprise me at all.
Man, we appreciate you as always. Great stuff. The people who view, the chat room, everybody loves this segment with you. So do we. We appreciate you. We love you, man. Thanks for your time, Coach.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I love visiting with you.
You too. Phil Bennett, former longtime college football coach, and not so sure. Even threw that out there that maybe something that opens up, although I think he's enjoying traveling around the country and doing his thing. Can you imagine sitting down and having a couple of cold ones with him, or just sitting around and you have a few hours on the back porch, or even if it's at a sports bar or whatever, just listening to his stories, which is what we try to do on Mondays.
Yeah, he's got some great ones.
The Ahmad Dixon or Ryan Stewart stuff is hilarious. Craig, do you have a favorite Phil Bennett moment, or just a bunch of them over the years? I know it's just like random.
I don't have a bunch of favorite. I don't know. It's not. No, I don't. I enjoy talking to him, but I don't have like anything that's like sticks with me. Is like, oh, that's my favorite. No, I don't really have anything like that jumps off the page. I just, in general, appreciate that he gives us time and. Appreciate his insight, and I love listening to him. But, yeah, there's not anything along those lines that's, super memorable or anything.
That Paul remembers this. We're on our way up to Dallas to cover the AFCA Coaches Convention up in Dallas, and I get a call from Phil's younger brother, who's coaching high school football at the time at Jefferson in East Texas, and I just happened to check in with him. And he told me that Phil was getting the job. He was taking over the job as defensive coordinator at Baylor. I get him on the phone. And that was a story that we were able to pop pretty quickly, just timing. Got very lucky with that. and have loved the stories. His brother Jim and Jerry, among many, many others. Kim Coulter, Super Chat, thank you. Coach Bennett equals greatness. Appreciate the time, appreciate the feedback. Phil Bennett is phenomenal. Bobby B, appreciate that. Gary Wilson, pretty sure that Eddie Lackey named the kid after Phil Bennett, who was the defensive coordinator when Lackey was an all-conference linebacker at the time. All right, when we come back, we're not done. 5:27. Paul's just around the corner with his top five. And let's get back into a couple of other college football notes, including looking at the Big 12 this week, last week, Arkansas with a new offensive coordinator, Dabo Swinney in the postgame following Miami, much more. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. I had to break into my stash for just a buddy here this week. I'm not going to say who, but he pushes buttons. He's been a little under the weather and wanted to make a hot toddy, so he said, "Hey, look, I just want to try a couple things." And I said, "Okay." I brought him some whiskey, and guess where I got that whiskey? Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and it was good stuff. It was absolutely delicious stuff that I brought him, and it was local craft bourbon right here in Texas. And they have so many different kinds of those there. That's the best place to do it at Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. They've got a wide selection. They're always trending the roster. Craft beer time. Hey, it's fall. Get the fall beers while they're here, and then they shift into winter probably around the end of November. So right now you got your Oktoberfest beers. So go and enjoy those right now. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. And also they have the new location downtown on Franklin Avenue. That's more of the kind of the what's going on in social media, the cool hip cocktails that are people are trying and putting out there. They have those at Riverbend Liquor and Wine in the downtown location. Now 2 locations to serve you: Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, and in downtown Waco.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels in Waco, get 2.9% for 72 months on new 2023 1500 Lone Star and Laramie 4x4 crew cabs, or $11,000 off MSRP on Lone Stars and $12,500 off MSRP on Laramies.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Samantha Duvall, Marketing Director for TexasBeefHouse.com. You know all about their great Wagyu beef and product they have. You can go to TexasBeefHouse.com for anything you want to order. But, Samantha, thanks for your time. There's an auction coming up in the month of November. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so November 11th, we're having our first public beef auction. It's going to be here at our ranch in White House, Texas. It's going to be a live auction. You can bid in person. You can bid on the phone, or we'll also have it online. And we're auctioning off Wagyu and Angus beef. We'll have 30 to 40-pound bundles. They'll be full of steaks, hamburger, and primals. This is perfect for not only the restaurant owners, but also homeowners.
So if somebody wants to load up your deep freezer with some great product from a place that is just delivering all of the time, with Wagyu from their ranch to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, here we go in the chat room. Appreciate a lot of the discussion on Coach Bennett and having him. There's always some trash talk going on. We appreciate that too, I guess. There was somebody that's no longer a part of the chat. I don't know if Emery or Levi or whoever maybe may have nuked him, called, if you don't have 5 rings, you don't have time, you can't talk. He eventually got a little bit out of hand.
Well, yeah, I had to remove him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I had to remove him from the room.
He got a little bit edgy. Arkansas fired offensive coordinator Dan Enos. He had a pretty good resume before he got there. Kenny Guyton will be elevated to interim offensive coordinator. He has been the receivers coach. Hogs had lost 7-3. Their offense has been struggling. Is Sam Pittman next?
Yeah, I think he's in a little bit of trouble. I mean, again, you're talking about everybody talks about A&M and Texas being an old rival coming back in. Let's not forget about old Arkansas money and Texas coming back in and the way that they would feel about that. Now, granted, that money's a little older than the A&M and Texas money, but there is some, I mean, especially I would think the guy who's one of their bigger donors, Jerry Jones, look, he's got some feelings about Arkansas and Texas. Hell, he played in that.
He was on the national championship
Yeah, he was on that national championship team. So, yeah, so Texas coming in the league, they're just kind of stuck in neutral at Arkansas. They had their moments. I mean, again, you can't just keep winning if you keep firing coaches every 3 years. But, you know, it's the SEC. You know, you can't wait around for everybody to come back to the pack. And here's the other thing about Arkansas. This year where everybody has come back to the pack a little bit, and then kind of like, look, if Jimbo Fisher's in trouble at A&M, then Sam Pittman, the same thing. Like, this should be an opportunity maybe not to go win the league, but to show that you are taking steps forward, and they're certainly not doing that. So, yeah, I think Sam Pittman, his seat's getting a little warmer.
Yeah, I mean, they've been okay here recently, but, you know, scoring no points or little points is going to eventually add up, and it has on them this year. And, you know, they lost Kendall Browse to TCU, and that hasn't gone swimmingly necessarily, but I do think that that's had an impact. And, you know, when things are going sideways like they are for them right now, you've got to look somewhere, and it's not going to be the big guy right now. It's not going to be Sam Pittman. So, yeah, I mean, Dan Enos was a logical conclusion. They're 0-5 in the SEC. There's not a lot of hopes for them, you know, scrounging anything together here. But Kenny Guyton, a guy who just a few years ago was the quarterback at Ohio State, he's from Texas, and had a pretty good little career there for the Buckeyes. But, yeah, seems to be a smart guy, up and coming, and now has a great opportunity in front of him to try and right this ship a little bit. But when you got KJ Jefferson coming back, among others, and you're sitting there, you know, unable to score consistently, that's alarming, and they needed to do something, because y'all talk about, I mean, yes, with Oklahoma and Texas and all of them coming in, but, like, who are they just in general without even that element? Like, they're just there. They're just there in the SEC. There's nothing that stands out about them as super special. And, look, they have history. They have tradition. I mean, Arkansas is a program worthy of some respect, but, again, they're just kind of there. And you think about all these other teams and the way we talk about them, and they're kind of in, like, the Vanderbilt category more so than they are in the Alabama, Georgia, you know, LSU, so on and so forth category. They're not as interesting as, you know, South Carolina or some of these other teams. I mean, they're just kind of, again, they're sort of there. So you needed a shakeup, and maybe this is the one that writes that. But, yeah, you definitely, when you start talking about, you know, hot seats and just things to watch down the line, not like imminently, not like right now or anything, especially when you've, you know, won 16 games in the last 2 years. But at some point, yeah, you kind of look at the way the league's going to be shaping up and sort of momentum and where things are going. And, you know, now that you've gotten rid of your OC, that heat's going to turn to you eventually if you're Sam Pittman. So, yeah, they got to hope this Kenny Guyton move will kickstart something. But just a waste of KJ Jefferson, right, this year? I mean, in the expectations of all that. So, I guess the solace is that, like I said, Kendall Browse isn't lighting the world on fire in Fort Worth, but still, that's a guy that they miss clearly. And, yeah, they're just sort of floundering.
All right, so Kendall Browse and TCU got mauled. Obviously, that was an ass kicking right there.
Yep.
Garrett Riley and Clemson continue to struggle. And speaking of which, we don't have the audio, do we, Paul?
I mean,
do we?
No.
We can't use the audio. But Dabo Sweeney, I don't know what I was doing. I guess just working on Saturday evening. I don't know. But you sent me this Instagram, And Dabo Swinney saying that quarterback Cade Klubnik was supposed to hand it off in the final play against Miami. He, in the postgame, got to take credit. He said, I just had an instinct that I should keep it. Well, Dabo disagreed with that. Did he throw Cade Klubnik under the table? And he did deserve that.
I mean, I think he did. Sometimes you can protect him a little bit. I think there's a little bit of frustration going around all over Clemson about their offense. I mean, it's just not, they just don't have guys who can win. You watch them, and they're kind of a dink and dunk offense all of a sudden. Garrett Riley calls it the dirt raid. That's what they're trying to do, and that's just not who they were when they were winning their national titles. And Cade Klubnik, like when Dabo said that, like, was it supposed to be an RPO or a keeper? And he's like, no, it's just supposed to be a handoff. When you watch the play, it didn't look like that at all. I mean, he, that was one of those things. He got that instinct, and there were two guys, the one that ran him down, but there were two guys he was going to have to beat. And one thing Clemson's going to have to hammer home is, like, look, you've got two good running backs in Will Shipley and Phil Maffa. Like, give them the ball.
Just trying to make a play. He said after the game, if I had the play back, I hand it off 10 times out of 10, but I take full responsibility for that one, learn from it, and keep going. I appreciate his honesty. Cade Klubnik, the young man who played high school ball in Texas, on the last in game-deciding play in the fact they were stopped against Miami.
Yeah, I want to go back to Arkansas for just one brief second and mention this is a tale of a team that is very close to being on the other side of everything as well, which is it makes it even more frustrating. You look at their results. I mean, this past weekend losing 7-3, but they're losing one-score games a lot, and it's just sort of the luck of the draw, right? With TCU, they were winning those last year. Now they're not winning them, and that's just how things go some years. So I did want to point that out. It's not like they're getting blown out, but obviously you lose games 7-3, then that was kind of the final straw there compared to what the expectations were. But as far as Dabo, I think you meant to say thrown under the bus, not under the table. Under the table would imply like there's a little sneaky something going on. And
is that what I just? That's one of that old man saying that I
throw him under the table means like a sneaky backdoor type of thing is going on. But did he throw Cade Klubnik under the bus as much as a college coach can without making it very clear that's what he's doing? I think he did it to the extent that he could, where he didn't cross that line of like actually calling him out by name and saying, yeah, he screwed us over with that decision. But if you watch it, he very clearly was pissed at Cade Klubnik and not happy whatsoever, and frustrations are boiling over. And, Dabo's got a lot of goodwill built up, I mean, with what he's done at Clemson. But it does feel – and I feel like sometimes, and Paul, I don't mean this like in any personal kind of a way, but I do feel like FSU fans or anti-Clemson people have been wish casting, hoping. But I do think that like at this point you can start to say like, yeah, there is really something like that's going sideways here, and it's slipping. And is it unrecoverable? No. But how they go about recovering it in time to where it doesn't slip even further. And I do think that's the dilemma that they have right now. They're losing close games too, and that's part of the deal. Just sometimes the coin doesn't, bounce your way or land the way you want it to. But yeah, just something's not right anymore right there. It's off.
Well, they don't have there's two things. Like when you heard me in the offseason, I thought Garrett Riley was going to that was the
we
great
almost forget that he's there.
Yeah, I thought, holy cow, with Klubnik, and then you kind of assume that they're going to have those guys on the roster, but I did not know to the extent. I knew that Dabo wasn't crazy about the transfer portal. I didn't realize that he was completely against it. And
it's almost like he dug himself in his own hole there.
So because he's been kind of completely against it, you can be one of the best recruiters there are. Look at Nick Saban right now. Like they have not only is he one of the best recruiters, all the coaches on his staff are usually great recruiters, right? So you're occasionally going to hit a wall where the guys you recruited aren't ready yet, or you miss on some guys. And so he doesn't have the guys on the outside that he used to, the DeAndre Hopkins and the T. Higgins and those of the world. And the teams that are beating him do, or in the case of Duke, they're just somehow more physical than Clemson, which is a rarity because that defense is still pretty darn good. They just don't have the guys who are the X factors anymore, and it makes their offense harder to move. And when he gets that realization, will it be in time, or will these teams have passed him?
No. That's the thing. He's not going to ever. I never want to say that. Mac Brown won a national title at Texas, and eventually he was pushed out. I can't imagine Dabo ever being told he has to leave unless it's something where he wants to go take over for example, his alma mater's Alabama, if that ever comes to fruition. I'm not even saying it will. But, yeah, it seems like they've slipped behind a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of Alabama fans will tell you that's not going to be the case.
No, I know that. I'm just saying I can't imagine him leaving Clemson for anywhere else.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, he'd still be attractive to, I'm sure, plenty of schools out there. But, I mean, he's not going to get much better than what he's got right now. But I do think you have to wonder about pride and stubbornness coming into play of almost like you dug yourself this hole of we do it differently here at Clemson. And now you're almost forced to have to do that, even if the best move would be to go, you know what? We do need to be better in NIL, and we do need to do this, and we do need to do it like everybody else. But no, you wanted to play no, it's different here. We're different. We do it the right way. And now, you're kind of stuck because you put yourself in that position.
Is that a much bigger version of what Gundy and Oklahoma State were on the edge of doing? But look what they've done. Well, again, different conference. Not the same standard, but a standard is pretty damn good at Oklahoma State.
You don't have to like it. But if you want to continue doing this job at this level, which you're making all this money doing, you're going to have to make some concessions because no matter who it was, whether it was Newt Brockney or Bear Bryant or Dabo Sweeney, the rules change over time. Do you think Bear Bryant was nuts about of course, I don't know if he really experienced this, but would Bear Bryant have been nuts about the 85 scholarship limit rule? No, because he was able to do things. So things change and sports are cyclical, but digging yourself in on something that the other thing is, I'm sure he sits around with other coaches like, yeah, we hate it. But guess what? All those guys are doing it.
No, you keep hating it because we're going to beat you because we're going to embrace it.
Well, times change in every industry, and you could be a football coach and not like the forward pass or these up-tempo offenses. But okay, if you want to get blown out and lose your job, then stay stuck in the mud. But if you want to actually win, then you got to adapt to the times, and it's just like anything else, whatever business that you're involved in, things change and time goes on, and you don't get to just stick with the same set of rules and the same circumstances, and certainly rules and circumstances around college football have changed immensely just in the last couple of years, and Dabo's going to have to adapt to survive, but he, like I said, he kind of put himself in a little bit of a corner just with the way he approached some of those topics. So yeah, that was a great win for Miami. I mean, great win for the Hurricanes, but a tough one for sure for Clemson. Just a tough year overall. And I'm wondering about Cade Klubnik. I mean, if it's not working to the extent that you hoped for, what's kind of the move there, and when can you expect him to, I guess, get more of a grasp and become more of the player that I thought he could be from the outset?
How much more pressure because DJ Uiagalelei is having a pretty nice run at Oregon State, by the way. That doesn't help either.
Uiagalelei.
Yeah, him. All right, so I don't think there's anything we've missed here. The James Franklin. Do you have that at all, Garrett? Did I send you the James Franklin?
No, you didn't send me. I got the UTSA thing.
I have that on. No, I'm going to go to the media blitz. I mentioned this last week. James Franklin now is 2-12 on the road against top 25 teams. Okay, well, we just told you the Virginia stat. They had never won a road game ever against a top 10 team until North Carolina. 0-10 on the road against top 10 teams. It's hard to win those games. 1-12 versus top 5 teams, home, road, or neutral. And 1-9 now against Ohio State. And that eventually you wonder, as good as they are, and maybe they beat Michigan, I don't know, but you wonder how frustrating that must be for Penn State.
Well, it's incredibly frustrating, and this was supposed to be the year, right? That's all we heard all week. Well, if not now, when? And this has to be the year. Why? Because it just has to be, because this is the best chance they've ever had. And you know what? I know there was some discrepancies on a certain call in that game or two, but credit to the Buckeyes for getting the job done. In the end, and for Penn State, it's just massively deflating. I mean, if not now, when? Well, it's not now, so when is it going to be? And when are you going to kind of turn around that record or records that you mentioned there? So, I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear talk show in Happy Valley and what kind of the conversation was like today. But just based off the immediate kind of reactions and just perusing around the internet, there's a lot of bummed out Penn State folks that are not questioning if they will ever be able to crack through with James Franklin as the head coach and win some of those games. And is it going to be more difficult when USC and Oregon and Washington and UCLA all enter the league, or How was all of that going to go? But as far as like the Big Ten as we knew it before these massive changes that came in, this period of history, it's going to end with him having very little to no success in some of the biggest games that he's coached in.
Retired stockbroker, after he and Paxton have been arguing about what's the best, not arguing, but the best blackened dinner or dish, he said, Penn State shouldn't do what A&M did with Slocum. Be careful what they wish for.
Yeah.
Very good point. Lorenzo Hayes,
yeah.
UT and Arkansas plus those schools versus Houston and A&M are the reasons I love college football. In that game with Houston, I know there are no moral victories. Dana Holgorsen has said that if they would have scored and needed to go for 2, then they would have gone for 2. It's easier said than done now. I thought Houston played their asses off in that game, but Texas had just a little bit more. And heck of a game that I thought could be a 50-12 type game, and I was wrong.
Well, it was starting out that way. I mean, it was 21-0 in the blink of an eye, and I think Holgorsen said it, but I myself was wondering of what is this going to be. And we said it last week, like this game has the makings. It could be like 80-0. I mean, the disparity in talent. And I think Houston showed they got maybe a bit more talent than people realized. They definitely got a lot more heart and spirit than maybe you could tell by the record. And I think just the unfortunate part is, as great as that showing was, you still didn't win the game. And that's the thing is you don't really want to take moral victories, but I think you sort of can here. If you're Dana Holgorsen, you may not phrase it as a moral victory, but you certainly are proud of your team. You're proud of the effort. You just wish that, you would have gotten a call go your way. Mm-hmm. And it's really a shame that we didn't get that opportunity to see that we got robbed of that opportunity to see what would have happened in that game. Because he's convinced, of course he is, that they were going to, make the plays to win that game. But the fact we didn't even get a chance to see it, I think, really sucks. So thanks, Zebra, or replay official or whoever. He also, I know, is very frustrated, as most people are, like, what can be reviewed and what can't? Like, because I see the most random thing, like a first quarter, first drive, third
4-yard run.
4, and like they're looking at the sticks. But in this situation, you can't look at the freaking sticks.
Yeah, I don't.
A first down, they could like send this game into another. But in the first quarter with like 3rd and 7 at the 45-yard line in a 0-0 game, like we get a Big 12 review. And I don't get that.
I think that's what frustrated me the most.
Yeah,
not the call.
Again, just go through the motions.
Yeah. But they said that they reviewed it. Like that's what he gets told, is that they reviewed it in the box, and they said
was unsubstantial evidence.
Yeah, but I mean, we see like things just get bogged down.
Yeah,
so
okay, here's an example, Craig. It's 3rd and 4. Somebody has the ball at their 40. A guy runs for 4 or 5 yards. He's out of bounds. It looks like he picks up a first down. They give it to him, and they review whether or not he had 4 or 5 yards.
There's a review
that's in the first quarter.
The first or second drive of every Baylor home game.
Yeah.
And none of it matters. Like, none of it really matters in the long run, as best we can tell, because it's 3rd and 5 as opposed to 3rd and 6, 0-0 at like the midfield. But that gets, 5 minutes of time. But that, I don't know. He said the booth told him that they cleared it and it wasn't, what he thought it might have been as far as the spot goes. But yeah, I mean, incredible effort by Houston. Gritty win for Texas, given the adversity they faced. I mean, you've got to win games like that to get to where you want to go ultimately. And so they're still just a one-loss team, and, credit to them. But, man, that would have been incredible for Houston to pull that off.
Yeah, and, again, then make a better play on 4th down, because I thought that was a quick, either
absolutely.
You catch it, throw it, or not. So, again, both Oklahoma and Texas survive. Oklahoma State, BYU flexed their muscles a little bit over the weekend. Kansas State, obviously, with what they did. Tech now 3-5 and staring down the barrel of a tough ending to the year that they had such a good one. Baylor trying to at least climb back in it along with Iowa State, and that's an interesting game coming up on Saturday. More on that and more on everything else the rest of the week. I think we pretty much touched on everything college football for the weekend.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
One of these things we just talked about a second ago, so we can kind of buzz right through it, but...
Sam Pittman?
No. Number 5 here on Top 5 Monday Thoughts. What is Texas without Quinn Ewers? That is going to be an interesting thing as they move forward through the next few weeks, which I assume this is probably going to be 2 or 3 games, because shoulder injuries don't just kind of go away, especially when your shoulder is pretty important if you're the quarterback and has to throw the ball. What is Malik Murphy? What is the offense? who the opponents that he does face, how many chances do they take? How does Steve Sarkisian use his athleticism? These are all big questions. And, we'll get to see him on hand against BYU on Saturday. We'll see. I think that game's they're at home the next 2 weeks. So that's also pretty fortunate for Malik Murphy as well.
Yeah, can he play in the secondary too?
Yeah.
Can we get him some more
Jalen
athletes back there?
Catalon's gone too, right?
Yeah, he's been gone.
Yeah,
I think, for a little while. But
not coming back either. Yeah.
Oh, not coming back. Yeah. He's been dinged, which is the story of his career, really. And
Yeah,
that
it
was
has
always
been.
the fear when they brought him in was like, man, the potential is out of this world, but can he stay healthy because he couldn't at Arkansas and now he can again, and I really hate that for him. It's unfortunate, but. Yeah, I mean, Ewers took that big pop, man, trying to, anytime you see a quarterback running the football, you always kind of worry a little bit. And sure enough, he tried to get big, and he got leveled. And I think Sark said afterwards, I need to go back and listen, but he tried to indicate he was on a different play or something. I'm like, that's pretty clear where it looked like he got his shoulder injured was when he went shoulder to shoulder with the defender.
I tell you what, was that not a collision where
Yeah.
neither body moved?
But I thought I read earlier that Sark tried to say it was another play, but I'm like, I don't think so. I think it was that one right there.
Paxton saying it happened on a sack.
Okay.
Maybe he was landed on, and then that
Sure.
happened. Then that just maybe if there was a rib that was detached, maybe that's what did it.
Well, let's set it up or set it off. That hit had to have mattered in some regard, but however it happened, that's unfortunate. And we get to see Malik Murphy now. A lot of people have high hopes for him, and Arch will be one play away if need be as well. You hope it doesn't come to that if you're UT though, but. Yeah, this makes it, a very interesting couple of weeks, if not longer. That's the thing, too, is we don't know how long he'll be out, but it does seem like at least a couple of games. So, yeah, it's the Malik Murphy show, and that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it's not season ending, but they're still, what season
I think
does that
what
mean?
sometimes this can do is make your team with all the guys you have around them, make them even more locked in and focused. They'll be fine. But it won't be easy.
No, but look, the schedule's also not as easy as everybody thought it was 3 weeks ago either.
No, you're right.
So that's true.
Well, the BYU game is that'd be more interesting in Provo, but they're feisty and they got a big win, and K-State obviously is looking pretty tough right now. TCU, but Iowa State's in Ames in a few weeks. That'll be good, and then Tech by the end of the year. Who knows?
And then you start to have really bad weather that kind of comes in the mix that could also affect it. Midwest, North, whatever.
Yeah, Iowa State in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it could be just cold.
Mm-hmm.
So number 4. How does Dabo respond to 2023? They've got 3 losses now, so they're just jockeying for position, and maybe they can get a dub over North Carolina. Although with the playmakers that North Carolina has and the way that they just lost, I pity their next couple of opponents because they've got to try to get back in the race, and they're up against it right now. So how does he respond? Does he make those necessary changes? And here's the other thing. Garrett Riley was really sought after, and they went and got him. What does Garrett Riley do after this? Does he go somewhere, maybe riding off the high? Could he be a 1-year hired gun, and then he leaves, and then Dabo's kind of back to square one?
Are you telling me that Dabo will ask him to leave?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that, if you're Garrett Riley and this didn't work out the way you thought it would, because I do think part of this was you go be the OC at Clemson after what you did at TCU, then if you helped Clemson get back to the mountaintop, then your phone's ringing for head coaching jobs. But right now, and really I don't think it's through any fault of his own, but that offense just doesn't hit. He didn't bring in those players.
Some of it has to be his own.
Yeah, but they didn't have the players I think he thought he was going to go in and have.
Would you take most of their players if you were 90 other schools in college football?
Yeah. Look, the only position, here's the other thing that's really sad for Clemson. The only position they're deficient at is wide receiver. Cornerback, great. Linebacker, they have 2 guys that are first-round picks. Defensive line, 4 NFL guys. Offensive line, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about his head coaching opportunities this offseason because his stock was way hotter last year. But, that's always a possibility, and who the heck knows. But, before they even get to North Carolina, they got Notre Dame in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So they've got both of those games still lined up. And, you don't really worry too much about, Georgia Tech, I don't think, at this point. But, there are, at least a couple, if not, 3 or 4 opportunities in these last 5 games where if they're not careful, they could slip up. So including South Carolina at the end of the year, even if the Gamecocks aren't the mightiest team in the world either. But, Notre Dame in a couple weeks, and then and UNC a couple weeks after that. So they're going to have to be careful to avoid a 7-5-ish type of season, which, given all of the circumstances and just expectations, would be a brutal finish. But they're right there on the cusp of it.
Number 3. What do we make of Washington's scare? Is this the Arizona schools really put a charge into Washington. 15-7. You probably didn't see it because it was at 1:30 in the morning if you were not on the West Coast. But Michael Penix had a really, kind of a blah game. It was 15-7. They won. They essentially won the game at a pick 6. And Arizona State, who's not, near the top of the Pac-12, pushed them to the limit. Do you guys take anything from this, or is this their scare?
I sort of just took it as their scare. I do think that you've got to be able to run the ball a bit better. Overall, it's when you rely as much as you do on Penix in the passing game. I do worry about it as a team in general like that, but I took this as a scare. I'm sure there's other evaluations or reviews of it that we're probably going to dive a bit deeper, but that's sort of how I took this one. But it definitely had you like, what's going on here after that big win last week?
I just think that it's hard to win. We're almost like, okay, Washington's going to go unbeaten. Oregon, not everybody is. Someone's going to lose. Oklahoma. It's just we look like there's going to be 7 teams that end up unbeaten, and there might be one by the end of the year. And even if somebody in the Pac-12 looks like they're going to run the table and beat all the teams that are really, really good too, someone like Arizona or Arizona State's going to pop them.
What did you think, Paul?
I think it was their hangover game. I mean, they had that big, gigantic win. But, it bears watching. Although if you look at everybody but Michigan in the top 10 or so, that's a contender, has had a scare or two. They've had 2. I mean, Arizona was a scare. Arizona State was a scare. Ohio State. Now, granted, their 2 scares have been against Notre Dame and Penn State, but scares nonetheless.
Washington's last 3 games, they've won by 18 points, including the 8 points.
Yeah, that was super. They needed like a pick 6 late, and they got very fortunate that game turned out the way that it did. That's what happens when you run into future Big 12 juggernaut Arizona State, though, and Kenny Dillingham and company. You know what? Those new Big 12 schools are starting to, Utah's been doing their thing, but Arizona State are getting better and showing signs. And who am I missing here? Who's the 4th team? Utah, Arizona. Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just sort of they had their bye week, and now I think that they're trying to ramp it back up and finish strong, but they obviously were the toast of the town. So, as much as that was all poo-pooed on at the time of those programs, the Arizona schools have actually had some good moments this year. And, I'm interested to see how they can kind of carry that over.
Dillingham said a comment, if you're a 300-pound kid walking on campus, we need you. Did you hear about that? Because they've had so many injuries.
They're 1-6, so don't let me get those comments blown out of proportion. But I do think you see signs on occasion. You're like, all right, I can see where this is going.
Number 2, what do we make of OU's scare? I'm very curious in your thoughts on this one, Craig. Again, this was for Texas and Oklahoma and Washington in particular. These were all games right after the big, gigantic rivalry game, and Texas's big, disappointment at the end. Oklahoma's big, announcement to the nation of them being on the scene again, and Washington with that. So some of this, I think, is a little bit of trap game-ish things where you're coming back down off the bye, but UCF with John Rice Plumlee is kind of a different animal.
No, they are. Let's give them credit because they played really well from start to finish. And we're kind of making excuses for some of these teams that barely won, but it's hard to win. I just think that there's a lot more parity in college football than sometimes we realize.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma jumped out to an early lead and looked like it was going to be the game you kind of expected it to be. And I just think a poor execution in a lot of ways is what doomed them. Some missed opportunities. You allow UCF to have hope. You allow them to make a couple plays and feel like they're right in it. And the next thing you know, you're in a fight you weren't necessarily expecting to be in. So I do think it was a little bit of, I guess let down, if you will. But I just think that UCF took advantage of the opportunities that OU gave them. And gave them a scare, no doubt about it. But I don't fear for there's nothing about that game where I'm like, oh man, they exposed this, or they. Yeah. And
there were some guys running free again. That's what
Yeah, but it's also UCF coming off of a bye week, and it's Gus Malzahn who's throwing all sorts of weird stuff at you and trickery and things like that. And so it's not the easiest team to also prepare for. But I think the defense still played, and showed that it can bow up and make stops. And so, I think that was a game where just left the door cracked open and could have shut it maybe a little bit earlier. And when you didn't do that, it opened the floodgates and you found yourself in a bit of trouble.
You're in a track meet.
Yeah. And number one, what is the future for USC? That's the about fourth disappointing game in a row for them and the second loss in a row. And every single one of them has the same kind of thing, is that they're not tough enough to hold leads. They aren't good enough to jump out on some of these teams, or they've got to come back. It's for a team that was supposed to be in the CFP discussion, they look so far away from that. And having the best player overall in the country, too, really makes it sting a lot more. And then Lincoln Riley with not letting the players talk. This is
that was childish. That was such high school.
All bad stuff.
Notre
really,
Dame,
right?
Utah, 21-14. They still have numbers 5, 8, and 23 on their schedule the rest of the way.
I want to go back to Oklahoma for a second. There are a couple things that still worry me. And that's the run game.
Yep.
The fact that you couldn't run better than you did against UCF. Just in general, I wonder about the run game and how consistent it can be. And you've got to make field goals. And that was something that was a part of their mistakes early on in that game. But moving on to USC, I don't know. I think a couple more losses are probably on their plate. At least one more loss is on their plate. And beyond that, Lincoln Riley getting rumored for NFL jobs is probably on the menu as well. But yeah, that was not a good look on Saturday night, and they were going to win that game. I mean, they found a way to come back and nearly win that game, and then the Bear Alexander penalty happens, and I could not believe that. I could not and he's sitting there on the sideline crying, and I feel for the guy, but at the same time, I'm like, that was just such a dumb penalty. Yep. Like, that was inexcusably dumb. But if not for that, then we're talking about them winning. So, like, they're towing that line of, yeah, it seems all bad, and it's obviously bad when you've knocked yourself out of the playoff with your second loss, but you were this close to that being a massive win, right? So they're still going to be plenty dangerous, but yeah, their hopes are, for the most part, the big ones dashed, and you just wonder about Lincoln Riley and where his head's at.
What's he going to do, quit?
Go to the NFL.
Caleb Williams going to quit? I
don't think so.
I know that those are some of the responses, and if college football gets to a point where right now I get players maybe skipping a bowl game, even though that's taken hard for me, just old school. But I know, like NIL and transfer portal, things are new. If we get to a point now where players start shutting it down midway through the year because they can't win a Heisman Trophy or a national championship, I don't know if that's gonna be hard for me to fathom. That's gonna be hard for me to deal with. And I know, Emmett, get off my lawn. All right, Garrett, thank you very much. LSU, meanies to West Point.
Take care of business.
Thanks to our great sponsors every day. Hey, by the way, just a nugget on Wednesday, former Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby will be a part of our show. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, thank you, all of you, everybody. Tonight, 10:30, 365 Sports tonight on the CW. Back at it again tomorrow, Paul, with the triple option at 1, and we're back at 3 tomorrow. Bearcast tomorrow with Craig and Grayson as well. Have a great night.